2035,
Yep.
that Geelong will be one of the top 20 places to do business globally. There's a lot of talk about prosperity and opportunity, and you've got to make good on it. Otherwise, they're just throwaway lines.
Yeah.
That's always the stat that floors people.
Yeah.
97% of those 22,000 odd businesses are SMEs, and so that's why we care so much about the SME market. Definite training ground was spending 10 years in recruitment, because all you do is ask questions of someone else.
Yeah.
And
That's water everywhere.
just like it went from dry to almost half a metre above ground. Like the place flooded. The whole place flooded. Wow, here we go, Rayan. So
You're listening to Beyond Growth with Rayan Fernando.
Jeremy,
yes.
welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, the CEO of the Geelong Chamber of Commerce. Really excited to have you today on the podcast, mate. We've been sort of somewhat working together and been part of the Geelong business community for a while now. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And how's this weather we've got today? It's a little bit hectic here in Geelong with winds, gusts causing us a bit of a headache.
It's quite beautiful inside looking out, but it's apocalyptic out there. So.
The clouds are rolled in, so it's definitely not a good day to be outside in Geelong. But we're heading towards good weather. But Jeremy, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, for those that might be hearing you for the first time, give us a little introduction to JC and your life journey and your business journey. Go as deep as you need to go.
Oh, the life journey and the business journey. Well, Chamber of Commerce for about 2.5 years now, but probably the best way to condense it, it's your job to unpack it, Rayan, is I've probably had three distinct career periods.
You have.
First one was around that hospitality, major events, sport, and very operational. And then second phase was around recruitment, people, talent, and spent some time both with agencies and then also internally. And then went into some project delivery, strategic partnerships, and then developing some really sort of complex stakeholder environments, and that kind of brings us up to today. So that's usually how I describe it as an intro when I've got 30 seconds or less.
That was the most succinct intro I've had. Thank you.
There you go.
Let's unpack it, shall we?
Sure.
But yeah, look, I mean, I suppose I was heading myself into a hospitality career. So it was quite a shift for me in my late teens to go, now I'm going to do IT and head into a business side of things. And it's worked well for me. But yeah, I guess what drew you to hospitality? And I'm just going to asterisk this, is that I feel like I love working with people that like or have worked in hospitality. It seems like it breeds a certain type of people. I'm not sure you found that yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't know how this conversation will go, Rayan, but I speak quite a lot to school groups and other stakeholder rooms about how not everyone's perfect. And I've actually got some I'd say some pretty boring, but also some, stories that people are just like, oh, that's not that inspiring. But I'll tell you how I got into hospitality, because that's one of them. Back in the mid-90s when I was in secondary school, I wasn't particularly academic. That style of rote learning and studying, etc., just didn't really suit how I enjoy going through life. And so the very, very first, it was back then called the Vet in Schools program.
I did the same thing.
There you go. Yeah. So the very first one that the Victorian government brought in.
Okay.
And I was like, cool, if I get to do that, I get to go to Melbourne in the CBD to William Angliss College, which is hospitality. And I get to, I think it was like 2 half days a week.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go to school. I was like, cool, that sounds like me. So that's actually what started it. I did that in year 10 and did a certificate to hospitality management. And then I found out that was actually a guaranteed prerequisite to get into hospitality management after year 12.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, cool, that's kind of done.
Yeah.
Really terribly didn't apply myself in VCE, knowing that I would get in if I just passed. And that's kind of how I fell into it. But so that was the lazy option, right?
Yeah.
From that point onwards, that's when the actual passion grew. And you've got high customer environments. You've also got hospitality is unpredictable.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the environments I've been in, whether it's restaurants, hotels, major sporting, delivery, et cetera, we have just had the weirdest things happen over the time to our teams. And, some things that it's actually quite hard to believe, but there's some crazy stories in there about what people need.
What's the weirdest?
What's the weirdest? Well, look,
I'm sorry, I have to ask that one.
people always want to know, but like we've had people die in the hotels that need to be removed and taken out, that kind of stuff. But probably I'll just to stress how tough hospitality people do it. I was at the Grand Prix Corporation for a while, and we got everything set up. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it might have been sort of 2007. Everything set up, corporate marquees, like these sponsors are paying millions of dollars to entertain, their corporate hospitality clients over 4 days. And the weather predicted for Melbourne for that long weekend was 4 days of 40 degrees and more.
Oh, man.
Just incredible.
Yep.
So you can imagine the lead up. But after the Thursday, when people had turned up, they said, we need air conditioning. Like outdoor marquees don't come with air conditioning, right? So myself and another guy had to jump in a hire truck at like midnight and drive around the western suburbs, the northern suburbs, to all these random sort of industrial estates, just with guys lifting roller doors, putting in air conditioning units and evaporative cooling systems in the back of the truck. And we had to go back to the track, deliver it all, get it installed. I think I actually left the track at about 4 a.m.
Wow.
Drove home, had a shower, grabbed some toast, put my clothes back on and went back to work again.
Oh, man.
That's just what you got to do.
Yeah, that's it. I love those stories, though. Those are the hospitality war stories. Like you said, they are the coolest. And, like I said, I did the same thing. So I did vet, and I did 2 years. And my pivotal moment was my first split shift, because I was going purely into the kitchen more than management.
Yep.
And did my first split shift. I'm like, no, I don't want to go home for 4 hours and come back.
That's tough, right? And
it's tough, and but people do that, right? Like
they do it, but also it's such an important role to play. You can't go out and eat and entertain your friends if you haven't got those chefs that have been there since the afternoon and won't finish till after midnight. My choice was the front of house side, and I really enjoyed that sort of high pressure, the timing environment, and also the problem solving. This stuff just goes wrong all the time. You just can't foresee it. People are people, and because it's such a high people-focused product and service, there's always somebody who needs something that's not there, or something broken, or something that's not working, or whatever happens. And I think I was probably more so drawn to the environments that hospitality created, more so than the actual work. Mm-hmm. But also, you get to meet some fascinating people. I worked in a little high-end restaurant in Hawthorne for a couple of years, and it wasn't particularly well known, but a lot of the residents who were also, celebrities, actors, wealthy business people would just use that as their sort of little restaurant to go and have something maybe quiet with their partner or with their family. And that was a fascinating place. You'd meet Melbourne Cup owners would come in after the race, or you'd have these high profile business people just bring their kids because they don't want to be annoyed. And they became almost the sort of semi-family, because they would come in potentially once a week, every week, just to spend that time.
Yep.
And they're the stories that you love, because you get to meet some incredible people.
No, that's it. I mean, look, while we're speaking, I want you to think about this book up here on the bookshelf, The Unreasonable Hospitality. Have you read that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, you need to read that book. So Will Gadara is... he talks about, he runs a restaurant. There's a few different restaurants he runs in the story, but here, like a high profile restaurant in New York, and how much they took hospitality seriously. I've read it a couple of times, but it's just one of those books I reckon you need to get into, because that whole thing of like, how do you go the extra mile and how do you deal with change and things like that, the things they do in that book is pretty cool. But yeah, just a little sidebar.
And I think what's quite underestimated is making decisions.
Yeah.
Like often if you're out there, even just a frontline staff member, you might be waiting on tables and something happens, you've got to make a decision in that moment.
Like that, yeah.
You often can't say, let me just check with some people, we might workshop it, come back to you with some solutions, and you get to choose. Like the ability for people in services to be able to make a decision quickly and get the right result becomes a unique skill.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that start their first job, in hospitality, whether it's retail food or it might be, fashion or retail stores, etc. And that customer element you can always see comes through.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it. I think interacting with people and having to be nice when they have. I worked in La Paqueta in Geelong for about a year or two, back in the good old days. And yeah, that was interesting. People took pizza and pasta really seriously.
Well, they still do.
Yeah,
and
they
it's
do.
still there,
They
right?
do. Right? It's still there. And yeah, like it's just one of those things that, but yeah, you have the regulars that come in. You're like, oh, cool. Yep. And he has it a certain way, and he'll pull you up the first time. And then if you do it the same way every single time, he loves you. So it's just one of those things where you learn your crowd pretty well. But in this book, it's really cool because they empower the front end staff to perform acts of hospitality. They go above and beyond, and they have like a budget. So little things like there was a story in the book where these people come in, they're bringing their luggage, they're about to fly out of New York, they're having lunch or dinner, and they say, "Oh, we're flying out, but we didn't get to try a New York hot dog." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So the waiter hears this and basically passes it on to the team. The team goes down, grabs a hot dog, cuts it in half, serves it on a plate, and that's one of their sort of servings, and it was just brilliant, right? Like, and what a story, clever, and what $2, $3, whatever it is to get a hot dog. So yeah, it was just those little things that make me go like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. All right.
Very
Sold.
cool. Yeah, you've got to read that book. So hospitality, that's cool. I must admit, it's as much as I loved it, I just didn't like working in it.
It's tough. It's really tough.
Definitely as a chef. But if you find so I had we had a session at the Bayside Geelong venue that just opened up. They've got an amazing chef there, and so we're there in a session, and we usually get session food, quote unquote, like the usual. And this food arrives, and we're like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" Like the breakfast, the lunch, we were just taken away from where we were for the day. Like it's very Italian-based stuff, but you get this really unique, talented, people in hospitality, and especially the chefs that just create amazing flavors. It's a beautiful thing, and we need those.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
Yeah.
Well, we had lunch yesterday at the Davidson with a couple of sponsors.
What an amazing spot!
And look, that's just that is the training ground.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got
what a
students.
kitchen too. That kitchen there looks amazing.
Is full of students.
Yeah.
The waiting staff are all students, etc. And if you're the kind of person like me, I mean, I very rarely, get stuck into people and complain about stuff, but it's an open environment to provide feedback.
Yeah.
And they love it, they appreciate it, and but that food is like at the highest quality, given what they're providing and where they're at in their careers.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible.
And you're getting them at that start of that passion. Like you said, they want the feedback, but you're getting stuff on your plate that's just way beyond where they are. So that's good. Yeah, look, and it's not. And look, I think big shout out to Davidson's too. Like it's I think Wednesdays and Fridays. I think they do. Like I'm not sure what days they actually open, but they're a great place to go out for dinner, and it's a 3 or 2 course meal.
I think they're actually open Wednesday through to Saturday now.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, there you go. So if you're in Geelong, definitely check them out. So hospitality, and then you sort of went into dealing with having to place people in jobs. So that's a bit of a shift.
The bit in the middle is probably just that sporting environment because I went from the Grand Prix, which is sort of a combination of both, back into hotels for a while, and then went to the Werribee Racing Club to help relaunch that club. It had been closed for 3 years.
Okay.
But that was just this melting pot of politics, government, council-owned land assets that were part of the sort of private holding. A membership club that hadn't operated for 3 years. They were building a quarantine inspection site, which is for all the international horses that come over for the Cup.
Yeah.
And basically the mandate was get it all cleaned up, get it up and running, relaunch the club, make sure the Melbourne Cup international horses can go around the track, and hopefully it's successful.
Right. How'd that go?
I'll tell you what, talk about walking into something where you've got maybe an inkling of what's going to happen and none of it does. It was just, the challenge there was just how long that place had been left there for. So if you can imagine, grandstands that were built in the 40s and 50s that not only were old, before we arrived, but hadn't had sort of continual maintenance and that sort of stuff. But do you know what was really bizarre? So, forget all of the BAU sort of operational stuff, et cetera, et cetera. The time there being able to launch a sporting club that meant quite a lot to the local community, or sort of relaunch it, I should say, and have people come in and see not just horse racing, but there's also the community and the events element that comes with that, was fantastic. But we just had some really bizarre things. So the most bizarre thing, and this is probably one of the strangest moments I've had, is we were sitting there at a race day which had about 5,000 people on track, and we knew there was a bit of a storm coming, so the weather wasn't overly great. But at one point it started raining so hard that people were scared, and we ended up with, it's pretty close, but we had something like 130 millimeters of rain in less than 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
And
that's water everywhere.
Just like it went from dry to almost half a meter above ground. Like the place flooded, the whole place flooded. And it was so bad that we were watching, like the roof in the members area was just water falling everywhere, and part of the roof caved in on the inside.
Oh.
And it was just the most bizarre moment because it happened so fast. It's not like we were sort of readying ourselves to now try and, move water and sort of work through a flood. Like it just came and it went, and then all of a sudden the whole place was underwater. And you've got so many electricals lying around. Like there were marquees hooked up to all these different power sources, and that's when you have to think about what is it that I can actually do right now? And you've got hundreds of staff on track. You've got thousands of patrons there. And that was one of the most bizarre feelings I've ever felt, just standing there thinking. And as soon as the rain stopped, because it just disappeared, we're like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah. Wow. So what'd you do?
Well, you do all of the risk things first. It's quite uncanny. I don't think you can plan for something like that, but turning the power off, making sure that everybody's firstly safe and hopefully not wading through some type of risky scenario. You've got live animals on track, right? Which is, you got 500 kilogram horses. There's hundreds of them in stables and all sorts of stuff. So you've got to be really careful about that as well. The races were called off, but then it became also, all right, so how do we get people out sort of safely?
Yeah.
And for those that maybe do want to stick around because there's other stuff going on, around the country, like there's all these televised races and sports happening anyway.
Yeah.
How do we provide an area for that? And then that's probably the easier part. It's sort of just getting people through a couple of hours, and then there's the cleanup, and then the insurance assessments, and it's like, this is just causing a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a can of worms, that is. It's that's why you just reminded me. I was in Ballarat, start of the week at a business breakfast, and it was at the Ballarat racecourse. That place is a state-of-the-art racecourse.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah, it's
probably
really
not
cool.
much flooding happening there in a hurry. But yeah, it was while you're speaking, I'm like, oh, that place has got like all this state-of-the-art training grounds and things like that, but you can see that's something that's been looked after, and there's the pride. It's funny, it's like almost the way they speak about it. Like the CEO was talking about it. It's like the pride of Ballarat, just the fact that it brings people in.
Yep.
There's like events and winners from there, and they got major stables there as well. Like I'm like, wow, like this world you just don't even realize exists. And I'm there at breakfast going, I'm like, this is so cool. And I the reason I'm like, you reminded me the most is I got some hot tips, and I've got to go put some bets on. The trainers are like, you've got to go follow this person for a place. I'm like, ooh, okay.
And, racecourse is a community asset. So, I mean, what Luke Rayner's doing in Geelong, and just there's almost more activity that happens outside of race days than there are there. I mean, we helped bring in the Adobo Festival, the Filipino Festival recently, and they hosted that at the racecourse, because you've got all of these buildings that are not necessarily used. You've got sort of undercroft areas that have walkthroughs, massive amounts of space, great access, free parking. Like it's the assets that are often now used for shows and festivals and concerts, and we host corporate events there, etc. And the great thing about it is, most major towns or cities have got them. So they're really well utilized. There's lots of other types of weddings and events and other things. And Geelong's is actually one of the most utilized in the industry, but then it's also, you've got the showgrounds attached to the side of it as well. So
True.
A lot of different things happen out there.
And October's pretty busy in this side of town. Geelong Cup and Show coming up as well. That's going to be great.
That's true.
And I suppose like they played such a big role too during lockdown too. I remember going there to so many. There's a piano bar had a pop up there, and like it was just there was space for us to have other things happening. Obviously, that was like can't dance 2 meters apart, or had to dance 2 meters apart and things like that. But it was interesting times. But yeah, it was nice to see that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you must be one of the lucky ones that got out during COVID, were you? Because I feel like I was stuck at home for a few years.
Did you? Oh, it was the worst Christmas party I ever had. like love the piano bar, fantastic place. Yeah, great place. But we got to this place, it was like you had 2 hours to eat, drink, and have a sing along, and then you had to leave.
Yeah.
And the worst thing was the Uber surcharges on the way back was like 4 to 5 times the price to leave the piano to leave the race course. It was like $60 to get home from there to Hayden. I'm like, what? But yeah, no, look, let's not talk about those days. They weren't fantastic.
True.
So, what attracts you to come to Geelong Chamber of Commerce?
So we'd been living in Geelong for quite a while. Kids went to school, well, they still go to school in Geelong, and spend most of our time here, play sport, spend all our money, etc. And the real missing connection was that when you're hanging out with people at, the kids' footy club or around the schoolyard, and everyone's talking about these different people that are doing stuff in Geelong, or everyone's pretty ingrained and interested in what's going on around the local media, whether it's the Addy, the Times, the Independent, or it might be some of the social stuff. And I just had a complete disconnect because I was working for a national business based out of Melbourne. Yeah. And so the real missing part for me was I wanted to be in there and part of it, but also all of my, I call it sort of outward focus was in Geelong. All the spending, all the time, all the effort, all the fun stuff. But apart from the career, so everything I was doing sort of during business hours was for someone else and for other people that were out of Geelong. So that was kind of the urge to do something. But it actually I was pretty fussy, but also it took a couple of years to try and find the right type of role.
Yeah.
I think with the different sort of mix of things that I've done in my career, there's plenty of incredible career opportunities in Geelong, but I just had this kind of oddball, mix of stuff that was well, we don't know where that fits. and that's where it just took a bit of patience to find the right thing. But some of the key transferable skills had to be based around sort of services or working mostly with people. I don't have a tech sort of product design style background. Yeah. So it had to be in a sort of services or people environment. And then the other part was the relationship or sort of partnership side of things was where I was taking my career in at the time when I was based at Medibank working with, sort of universities around the country. So a couple little things just fell into place there.
Yeah, and so which year did you start? I must say I should know this really.
So April 2023.
Okay, all right. And obviously I'm on the board, and my interest in understanding the chamber has changed quite a bit over the last 12 months being on the board as well. But what was the like when you started the role? What was one of the unique things that you were like, oh, this is not what I expect, or this is different in that sense? Because I know when I joined the board and sort of, looking under the hood, I was like, okay, this is not quite what I expected, but this is awesome. Like, let's build this thing.
Yeah. So this is totally intended in a positive way, but in this role and with what the chamber does and with who we work with in terms of our members and our partners and our sponsors and stakeholders, everybody is interested and has an opinion in everything, which is actually a lovely thing. So I've worked in plenty of businesses and environments where you speak to somebody about a particular topic and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not really like my department. I don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in Geelong, you can ask anybody about any topic, and you can be a micro business, you can be a large enterprise, you can be a marketer or a finance professional, and you've probably got an opinion on what's going on. And the reason I like that is because our role primarily is around driving business success, and we do that through a few different ways. And one of those key ways is advocacy.
Yeah. And
so to get really immediate feedback, genuine feedback from people because they care and because they know what's going on, it actually makes our role a little bit easier rather than trying to find the right people who have got the right expertise who are also then happy to talk to you. And so Geelong's just one of those environments where, and I didn't expect that everybody would want to talk to you all the time. But I just remember the first couple of events. I often lose my voice because I talk so much. I'm either on the phone or I'm in meetings or I'm in forums or I'm doing podcasts. And so by a Friday, I often get a little bit husky. But I just remember, I think it only took me 3 days and I was like, I've lost my voice. It's gone.
Yeah.
First couple of events, I speak to 100 people in a room.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the lovely thing about it. So what was unexpected was just how accommodating, but also how giving people are with what matters to them. And that, I think that's the transparency side for people in Geelong, that whether it's good, bad, or, you know, challenging, they're happy to share what that experience is, and hopefully someone can help them.
No, that's it. And it's just one thing I love about Geelong is how much Geelong cares about Geelong. I find like it's so, like you said, it's just such a nice place to be. But yeah, it's just, I've been here for 25 years now, and yeah, I mean, and you quickly get accustomed to it, and that's kind of the way you look at Geelong too. Like, you know, you'll see the waterfront, or you'll see things, or you're like, oh, we need to try and fix that, and all that needs to be fixed. And you have like a very much I want Geelong to get better. Everyone wants to get Geelong to get better, which is a great environment to be in.
Yeah, it is. And that's actually hard to describe, but I think it's what the Chamber is really good at. Is we have a lot of businesses who are not yet in Geelong, but have an interest or an engagement, or maybe want a bigger presence. And some people describe it as, oh, it's too hard to break into, and it's not. But there's a particular respect and patience that probably goes with that.
Yeah.
You don't need to prove yourself, but you need to, you know, for example, if you want the business community to rally around your business and buy your product or service and help you out, you've got to show it's the art of reciprocity, right? You've got to come in and say, okay, well, I'm actually going to help give back, and I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to turn up, and I'm going to take the time to learn who different people are and establish relationships. And then that kind of naturally comes back. We have seen a few examples where businesses come in, you know, open a shop front, stake in the ground, I'm a competitor, don't talk to me, I'm going to smash this, and they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Because they just don't pay that time and respect for the fact that there's a sort of, it's a culture or a feeling that's been built in the community that is both caring and respectful for each other.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely be a part of it, as long as you're happy to be, you know, actually be a part of it, not just come in and use it, and sort of leave again, or leverage it for a competitive advantage. And I think that's the nuance that often businesses struggle with, and that took me a really long time to understand. Yeah. Not being, I didn't grow up here, I didn't go to school here, and there are a lot of people that have those deeper connections that probably helps, you know, create some of those pathways.
No, absolutely. And you know who did that really well, I think, just in the recent history, or recently more, not recent history, but Sam Silver, right? Like I remember speaking to him about a year and a half ago, and he's from Do Sol, does some amazing work in the social media space. But yeah, he did that. He did the heart. He went connected, and you just see him sort of grow in the business community. And for me, he's like the perfect, like, okay, that, like what he did is exactly what you got to do. And maybe not, I don't like the words break in, but like to actually, you know what I mean? Like be part of the business community and grow with it. And he did that so well. It was cool to watch.
Oh, I can remember quite plainly because that was an event we had at Truffle Duck. Sam actually waited around honestly, we had a room full of nearly 200 people, and he was probably one of the last 5 there because he just wanted to make sure he made an intro. I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
So he introduced himself, and he said, I'm just really keen to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's really cool. You know, how can we help? And he said, well, you know, how can I help? I was like, oh, that's really cool. Okay, it's getting on to 9 p.m. Why don't we catch up after that? But that attitude was around, let me see if I can do something for people first.
Yeah,
and, you know, he turns up to everything. He's very, very involved, but he's also, he's one of the biggest promoters of what's going on in Geelong.
Yeah.
And his business and his connections and his networks are absolutely smashing it.
Yeah.
But that to me was as clear as day, because I love meeting the businesses for the first time. And he sort of stood out, like he just waited, and I was trying to get away from different conversations, and he was still there, and I was sort of gesturing to him, you know, don't leave, and it was worth it because we only had about a 60-second chat.
Yeah.
But he's become one of the, you know, the great chamber friends.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's so important, you know, and I think helping first is that's the mindset, you know, that really gets you moving in that connection with people. To the 9 p.m. thing, I reckon some of the best conversations I've ever had at after 5 generally happen after 8 p.m. So it's like,
they probably do.
Yeah, it's just like, it's all, like you said, the people that want to be there are still there, and they actually just want to have a genuine conversation, which is brilliant.
And look, we've done quite a bit of work lately just around how do you curate the right environments and the different climates for the diversity of the business sector. And I think we will always play around with that balance. I don't think there is a perfect method to that.
Yep.
But we're now in a situation where the after fives people really love because it is a little more relaxed. It's a little more social. And you do actually get that time. You know, a lot of people don't necessarily have to scoot away early to be somewhere else during business hours. And then on the flip side of that, we've got plenty of events and opportunities to connect during business hours because we're respectful that people, if they're going to get some time off, getting it off during business hours makes sense to apply that sort of business learning. But there's always thought, particularly in our team, around, okay, do we have 30 to 45 minutes at the beginning of the event so people can come in and connect and chat and do that, or is it after the event? And there's a lot that goes into how we deliver our different initiatives to make sure that that's not missed. We're just not an organisation that puts a session together, you turn up, you register, you sit down, you get it done, you leave again, because that human, interaction is so important for us.
It is. And that's, great event in Ballarat the other day, but that was the thing, like it was literally like 8:45, everyone leaves. And you're like, oh, I didn't get to speak to anyone except a bunch of horse trainers. I'm like, not quite the conversation I could keep up, but no, look, it was, and that's what I love about it. I do enjoy that. Even when it is, a connection event, like in the middle of the day, there's that purposeful time set there to like make connection, because it is important, right? Like it's otherwise, I found like, so when I started my first business back in like 2006 or 7, whatever it is, I joined the chamber, and I remember like the chamber helping me get my first couple of clients as well. People that knew me but sort of didn't know me, and like, you're running your own IT company now. Okay, cool. Yeah, give me a call. But it was through those little connection times, like having those times to connect. But the chamber's evolved so much, and even more so in the last, since 2023 roughly. So talk me through the evolution, because I think, for those, people that are part of the chamber community know about it. And as you and I know, that's only a small portion of the Geelong business community or the Geelong community as a whole. But talk us through the evolution and so your mindset and thoughts on why we've gone down the path we've gone down. And I must admit, I'm loving the different events and different times as well. For me, doing what I do, I've got a lot of flexibility, and sometimes it's nice not to always have an after a 5 event to go to. But talk us through that. Talk us through the learning side of things as well, because it's a very different chamber to definitely the 2006-7 chamber. I actually found the chamber certificate, my original one. It's still sitting in the garage. It's still sitting in the garage. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, talk us through it.
Yeah, well, and it's probably important to know. I mean, the chambers started in 1853.
Yeah.
So it's
just look at the emblem, right?
Look at the emblem. Well, it's one of the oldest organisations in Australia, and it'd be hard to imagine how many different economic cycles and changes it's been through, and it's been through wars and stock market crashes and all sorts of different weathering. But when we had a look at, so a couple of years ago, we're sort of looking at it and thinking the post-COVID sort of retrospectives were pretty common. And what was really evident is that the chamber exists when things are going really, really well out in the economy and in business. The chamber exists as a really powerful way to help celebrate that, bring the success together, and almost help bring people together to try and leverage how do you make good on that. When you start to trend and flip the other side, and we've had some pretty tough, inflationary periods and so forth, some large volatility and even just some uncertainty, whether it's at local, national or global level. The chamber then exists as a support network and a way for people to find value so they can actually help their business get through it, or they can find new opportunities. So there's almost a value offering at every end of the spectrum. So when we had a look at the sort of, I suppose, the mix of business, the mix of economy and the way Geelong was evolving, the chamber really had to be in a position to try and adapt to that, because it's quite different. Geelong is the fastest growing regional city in the whole of Australia. And the mix of industries, the changing dynamics of some of the different industry sectors, the types of demographics that are moving in, which then flows on to the different types of businesses, is all constantly changing. And so making sure we had still focusing on being that, large, influential chamber, but also leaning into how that diversity of business was changing was really important. And a lot of that came down to, okay, so, you know, for example, if you're a micro business and you've started your own online retail store and you're a B2C business, how important is it to you to turn up to face-to-face events in the evening, for example? So that might be, you know, it's a good example of a business that probably doesn't see huge value, but maybe sees that value sometimes. So what is it that we can provide you with? Is it economic data? Is it, you know, getting a big four bank to provide payment and transaction information so you can understand where people are spending their money and the consumer trends? So it was really trying to think about how do we keep the advocacy as the core, as being the largest business representative body in Geelong. How do we then help educate and inform our members so that they can make better informed decisions and use us as an education point really to help make decisions? And then still maintain that connection component so that we're helping you curate and create opportunities to find new networks, find new people, relationships, because people are looking for other people for different reasons.
Yeah.
You might want to find people because they're potentially a customer down the track, or you might want to find someone because they can help you solve a problem that you need a business mentor for, or someone's gone through it in your industry. So it was really looking at how do we perhaps broaden the offerings so that more businesses could see themselves becoming members of the chamber. And then as a result of that, the more businesses that we have, the stronger the influence and the voice becomes, and it's quite circular.
No, absolutely. And I think looking at the memberships as well, they've changed quite a bit, especially, I mean, this year and along the lines of the way, I think the way people work and interact has changed dramatically in the last 5 years, right? Especially through everything we went through, lockdowns, and just, you know, just the way we work as well as a community, as a whole. So yeah, it's I think the old model definitely wouldn't work in that sense, because we live very disconnected lives from almost work as well, right? Like the working from home side of things. It's very much a whole new platform. So we've obviously included some online learning platforms as well for the members, which is starting to bring a whole another layer of value for members, right? And access, right? Yeah, and also learning and teaching as well, from either having a look at your business and doing the business survey, right? Just seeing how your business is tracking, so you get a grasp of where you're at, which is something that, you know, was definitely not there, but it's definitely needed for the community, especially those micro businesses and things like that just maybe don't have the time. Might be able to just do a quick online survey and go, okay, cool, these are things I need to focus on, and who do I need to go reach out and speak to? But that's been like, so how did that come together? Because I feel like I've sort of obviously joined the board late last year, so I sort of missed some of the prequel to what's happened now. Yeah. But what drew you to that place? And obviously Playmakers made a huge part of that as well. What drew you to actually sort of bring that into the mix? Yeah,
so firstly, there's a whole bunch of sort of outreach, feedback, talking to the members, et cetera, and then having a look at some of the root causes as to why does someone choose to become a member, or why do they choose not to? Yeah. And that was the key thing. Is we have a huge audience through the chamber. You know, our followers and our social network is absolutely massive, and we have this regional advocacy brand, which is really quite large. And then when you drill down a little bit further, we do some amazing things for the broader business community that gets access. It doesn't matter whether you're a member or not. Yeah. You know, we just had the KPMG Geelong Economic Breakfast, and anyone can buy tickets to that. So we create these opportunities for the whole business community to be involved. And then you drill down a little bit further into our memberships, and we just had a situation where our membership products just didn't quite match the modern decision-making for businesses. So the products were based on business size, and there wasn't really an option to upscale or downgrade depending on what you wanted. So it was either you had it or you didn't, and that was it. It was quite a binary decision.
Yep.
So all of the same benefits are there that have been in the past, and all of the same access. To be fair, you've probably got a lot more richness in terms of the quality and the contents and the access to the education hub and the learning side of things as well. But it was really just being thoughtful around, all right, so when you think about where your business is at, how do you think about it? So you're either wanting to come in and do a bit of connection stuff and see how it works, or you're on a growth appetite and you want to really, lean into that journey. Or you might be an employing business where you've got people and staff, and you sort of bring in that workplace relations and the HR element. So we just rebuilt the products so that they were more identifiable, and also so that businesses can choose. So you might actually come to Geelong with yourself and start a business, and you just want to make those connections, but then you want to lean into those growth elements, and we've got some quite specific products and deliverables for those grow members. As you start to put some employees into the business, you're going to outgrow that product. Yeah. So now you've got an opportunity to step up again. And it was just layering that up. We did quite a bit of work with the Victorian Chamber, and they've been a great support in providing some data and analysis around some of the business wants and needs. So we took some of that information on board as well. And so, look, on the front end, it looks really different. All the same inclusions are there, but it's just opened up the element of choice. That's the main thing. So businesses can get started at a pretty low cost option and sort of build their way up from there. But equally, if something happens and a business decides that they might just need to reduce their input or their involvement a little bit, we can actually accommodate that now. Whereas previously it was, well, if you can't pay for that membership because of that size of business, then you're just going to have to resign. So there's a few little nuances that'll really help there. The other thing about that, though, is just opening up our thinking as a business so that we can be adaptable to what the businesses need.
Yeah.
And so what we needed to do is create some systems and some processes whereby if there's something topical and we need to go and get some expertise in that space, how do we deliver that back out to the members in a way that's not necessarily, say, event-based? Because events are quite expensive to run. You need to promote them. You need to either get people booking or buying tickets. And so having those online portals and those digital education platforms became really apparent that we were kind of missing an opportunity to say, do you know what, if if working out what your purpose and brand is at the moment is particularly on trend, here's some information that you're just going to get access to. Yeah. Because by the time we find a speaker and put an event together and get the few people in the room that are available, that opportunity might have passed us. So we just need to be a little quicker to market. So we've created some of those structures around us to be really adaptable.
Yeah, it's definitely, look, I've really enjoyed the new sort of structure and sort of what's coming out. And you can see that value. It's just trying to get to that broader business market, right? The Geelong business market. Because what do you say? There's 20,000 businesses in our region, roughly.
Yeah, there's between 20 and 23,000, and you got to sort of define those. There's a few that aren't necessarily operable, but the biggest stat that continues to resonate is that 97% of all of our businesses in Geelong are SMEs. They're 19 employees or less. That's actually the same pretty much across all of Victoria and all of Australia. Yeah. So it's really interesting when we have a look at the discussion, say, even politically around productivity is a good example. SMEs tend to spend their business investment more locally than larger businesses. Mm-hmm. And so there's some incredible initiatives out there that should really be looking at driving productivity through the SME market, because it's 97% of the volume of businesses. And Geelong's got a really great history around SMEs, because it's one of those places that is still affordable from a housing perspective, from a business perspective. Some of the costs associated are a little lower than the metro areas, etc. And so they're environments where SMEs are often either starting their business journey or they're setting up because of the environments around them. And we've got some great ideas that we've been speaking to our local MPs about, and I dare say we'll be more active in the lead up to the state election. But that's always the stat that floors people. Yeah. 97% of those 22,000 odd businesses are SMEs, and so that's why we care so much about the SME market.
No, that's it, and there's definitely some passionate speakers out there in that place as well. And look, what really struck me as well when I was sort of going through and finding out more about the chamber, especially when I started down this new EOS journey a couple of years ago, was just the size of your team. Like you guys achieve so much with so little people behind the scenes, and I think that's where people hear Geelong Chamber of Commerce sounds amazing, like grand and things like that. But what are you, 5-6 people behind the scenes? There's not a lot of yous there.
There's 7, including me. But
7. There you go.
And I think too, this is where the opportunities that are out there for those that want to leverage the chamber. We are essentially number 1 or 2 brand in market in terms of volume and engagement across social media across the whole of Geelong, which is an incredible feat. It's all down to how the team consistently creates content, consistently engages, but also the audiences that are behind it, because we've got to put out relevant content, but then those businesses need to lean into that as well. The operational side is really where I'm still, flabbergasted about how the team can deliver what is pretty close to 100 events a year if you include our involvement with the Small Business Festival. That's our partnership with the City of Geelong.
Yeah.
So if you have a think about it, we deliver about 75, 80 events in 10 days there, and there are between 20 and 30 physical events that are delivered throughout the rest of the year. So we're getting pretty close to one every week and a half, which is quite phenomenal. But the other parts of that is that we've just that's our niche, right? Is being able to create the environments and the opportunities for businesses to either connect with others or for those to come in and learn and to lean into those conversations. And we've just also got a great support network. So the venues and the hotels that we work with are phenomenal.
So good.
The catering providers, the AV, all that kind of stuff. So we have an ability to be able to put things together really quickly, really efficiently, with some great relationships. And that's part of the environment that we work in. One thing that we have to get much better at is how do we start to capture that in-person content and then sort of redistribute that out, because that includes that audience that either can't be there for that, day, date and time, but also gives us an ability to be able to offer a different product. So there's a few things we're working on now to be able to make sure that a lot of what happens in those incredible discussions or those events that are delivered also then gets captured and is offered to others.
I know there's so much value in those events, and I totally agree. I think that's something. I think a lot of businesses that run events or run webinars, or not webinars, but run sort of panels and things like that, not capturing it and not reusing it is such a loss, isn't it? Because it takes so much effort to get everyone into that room, to create that space, and to create that ability to have, and then not to record it. Yeah, so that's I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that.
It should be good. And look, I think the other thing is that we're a small business, so a lot of the work that we do, we totally understand who our customers are, and we're also riding the bumps and the ups and downs that everybody else is.
Yeah.
So I think that helps if there's something that's affecting, business, the economy, different policies, whatever it might be, we're actually often on the recipient end of that as well. So we're going through that lived experience of running a small business in an environment which is similar to you running your business in the same environment.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps us, firstly, have our finger on the pulse in terms of what's relevant and what people are looking for. But it also helps translate that message of when we're working with one of our sponsors or our partners or our members to deliver a message or take their business to market or to put something together that's an offering to our members. We kind of get what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
it's not like we're just an events company that helps
Yeah,
deliver the marketing and promotion.
Yeah.
Like we're in it. We're in it. So that really helps all the way back into the initial discussions about people reach out to us and say, can you help us do X? And we're like, yeah, we totally understand what you're trying to do there. So let's work with you on it.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's probably the biggest key, one of the key takeaways is to understand that, when you go to a next chamber event or After 5 or whatever it is, there's the behind the scenes. There's 7 people working their butts off, right? Quite literally wearing multiple hats to make that happen. And now you mentioned the Geelong Small Business Festival, which I know it's been running for like 10 years, 12 years.
I reckon this was the 13th year.
13th year.
And the third year that the Chamber's been involved.
Yeah, right. And it was just, it's such a great, I don't know, I find like it's good energy when the event's happening. And I've sort of gone to a few of the events, but for those who may have not, like I must admit, so before I started running this business at the moment, and even when I was in the previous IT company I was working for, I didn't know that it even existed. It's like, because I guess I wasn't really active in the chamber and just not seeing that space. But I think it's like so third year running with the Chamber of Commerce, so you can see how much more visibility it has, obviously working through the Chamber of Commerce as well. But for those who haven't been to one, just maybe give us a quick brief what's it all about?
Yeah. So the city of Geelong essentially delivered the festival for the first 9 years, and this is a classic case of 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2. It's an absolute multiplier, because what the city does is they're able to facilitate and they engage the chamber as a delivery partner, so that when we join those forces together, it's got all of the richness of what's already been built and the connections, and they've got an incredible economic development department that's in touch with businesses themselves. And then you combine that with the chamber team and the audience that we have and the operational experience and the delivery experience, and it's become something that's quite envied across Victoria. It's one of the largest small business events in the whole of Victoria now.
It goes for 2 weeks.
Goes for 2. Well, it used to go for the entire month, but
did it?
The reason we condensed it down is just for some efficiencies to really, if you can take a morning off or an afternoon off, it's worth going to a couple of sessions rather than having to go to one per day. But what it's really, the really pleasing change that we've seen over the last couple of years is that we've got a lot of small businesses that struggle to find ways to lean into areas where they want to be educated or more knowledgeable. And the Geelong Small Business Festival has become a place now where you can spend time and you can run into other contacts and you can get that sort of connection side, but you're also going there for some really valuable expertise and sessions that are delivered by those businesses in the community. And so great examples, you might spend an hour, learning on how to rethink the finance in your business, but then you take those conversations and you can go and meet the host of that event because they're based here. And that's a lot of the activity that happens during the festival carries on, beyond that, days, weeks, months, years. And what we love about it is every year that we've been working with the city of Geelong now, there's been some elements that have just made some big improvements. So even this year we had the Small Business Festival Hub, where we had multiple exhibitors, and people can engage with some of the government agencies that are in business. They can also engage with different private businesses. We've got Morris as a big supporter across the festival, providing a $25,000 business grant, which in the current environment where there's a significant lack of grants and funding is really, really much needed. And there's an event next week to sort of help celebrate the end of that and champion the business that won that grant. And so all of these different elements that have now started to stack up has just made it this incredibly valuable proposition for the region. And out of all the things that we've done at the Chamber, I think this, taking on the Small Business Festival has been really eye-opening, because it's just, there's so much exposure. There's thousands of people that are attending. There are 75 businesses that contribute their time to host an event. And then you've got all these different environments where people are connecting, et cetera, et cetera. And it's become something that's so firstly, it's quite a large operation to deliver, but the value that comes out of that is quite incredible. And we see a lot of business. We had businesses come in this year who hadn't started their business, like they were literally waiting for an ABN, registration to sort of happen, but decided that would be a great place to start. They're the kind of stories we love. Yeah, because that's exactly where you want to start. Get immersed yourself in, into that small business community.
And that's it. And like you said, especially in the hub based in sort of in Geelong, there the ability to spend a day there and get finance help, marketing help, and a lot of them are free sessions as well, is really incredible. But also seeing businesses taking that opportunity to share their knowledge and share their understanding and learnings, and helping the people in the room was really cool to see as well. It was just one of those things that you go, these people getting to elevate themselves, because it is, I mean, if you think about a micro business, you don't always get an opportunity to, obviously you could do a lot of stuff on social media, but you get in front of people and present and strengthen that muscle in a space that's, I guess, a little bit more open to people sort of, doing it for the first time as well. So it was really cool seeing a couple of people do that for the first time. I'm like, that's what I loved about it. It's
going to be really interesting. Slight pivot on the conversation, but the skill of communication is going to be really challenging, I think, moving forward. Particularly because we've got a lot more digital, online, work from home culture, etc. There's a whole cohort of university students that spent the last 1, 2, 3 years of their degree, in lockdown.
Yeah.
And similar with, and just the role types as well. But that art of speaking and presenting can be so powerful. And we do have a lot of, first year businesses that come in and they kind of use that as a bit of a testing ground, and then they might enjoy it, but they also get a lot of feedback from the audience. And that's great for the host to come in. And if you're a business that wants to host and you put your time and effort into sharing some of your knowledge and expertise, you then also get to receive some feedback, and you get some value out of that environment and the audience who are also willing to help you on your journey. I think we can take that festival to another few levels over the next few years, and it would be incredible if in future we had a small business summit, a super high powerful, thousands of people. I mean, the other side to the small business festival is that SMEs are often the customer set for a lot of larger businesses. And we've seen a really good interest from businesses who want to tap into the SME network, but we filter that as part of the process so that there has to be a give back.
Yeah.
They have to be coming to the festival to help educate, learn, or improve or help drive business success for the SME community. Not to sell a product, but there's some incredible businesses who do that, and we can see part of that, becoming a real opportunity for Geelong, and hopefully utilising the convention centre.
Yeah.
To be able to bring that together. Oh, it's going to be incredible. But I think a lot of people out there have been to those sort of 1, 2, 3 day business summits where you've got so many different sessions, and you've got to book them on the app, and you sort of got to attend them, and there's just this rich content and plenary groups and keynote speakers, etc. And that's probably a good vision for us to have for the Small Business Festival. And no doubt we'll have people flying in for that kind of event in future.
Well, that's the thing though. Yeah, if you get, especially if you can work on the right speakers to come through as well, it really attracts a wide array of people, and then that, if anything, amplifies Geelong as a regional city, but also really amplifies the small businesses in Geelong to be able to be in that space and present in that space as well, because all of a sudden you've got eyes on you that may not have been there if it was, in a different sort of venue or setting.
And we often call them the sort of hidden business gems, but there's so many businesses here that just don't have a public profile. And part of the reason is they may not even have an operation or a customer set that's Geelong or even domestically focused. There's businesses based here that only have a global client list.
Yeah, right.
And so, it's great to uncover those and to get them to help share their stories. So they're the kind of businesses that don't necessarily, sort of mingle in some of the physical environments, but during the festival they pop up and they're happy to share their expertise. And when you start to bring some of that international perspective back into Geelong and there's that global outreach, that's when some of those businesses will really come to the fore. We've got some incredible businesses that we're hoping to try and profile moving forward.
No, that'd be awesome. And look, you mentioned the art of communication. Now, Jeremy, I don't take this the wrong way, but I see you on stage and I go, I love the way you talk. Like you present better than anyone I've seen for a long time.
Oh, there are some better ones, right?
But like as in person, I'll say that, right? So, but look, so I guess to that, how much effort went into getting to this, this version of Jeremy on stage? Because you handle the stage really well, and it's one of those things that it's engaging, people listen, and even if we're talking about something that's not quite boring topic, sometimes I'll watch you and you'll somehow bring it back to something that's a bit more interesting, and it sort of keeps going because thankfully you just sort of drive it forward in a way. But how much effort went into that personally? Because I know, like, it's for me, I spent a bit of time like growing this in with the podcast and doing some stage stuff and then doing some presentation stuff. It took a bit of work, and I still have work to do. Like, I don't think there's no end goal. Like, you just got to keep working on it. But yeah, so how much effort went into that? Because I always see that and go like, personally, I'm like, if that's natural, I'm like, what a lucky son of a bitch.
It's definitely not. It's not natural at all. I think the way I've had to think about this, because a few people ask me, I haven't had any formal media training or presentation training, but I think what sort of brings the different ingredients together is, so if we're talking, say, personality profiling, like I wear a red hat, which basically means I probably think I can do it, even though I may not be able to, but it gives a sense of confidence. That's the main point, right? So I'll probably just have a crack at it. And if it doesn't work, that's probably fine. But for me, one of the lessons that was really ingrained during my time when I was at Medibank is just purely being customer first. And so the way I think about things is, all right, if I was sitting in the audience and I'd purchased a ticket or I'd taken time, to attend a 7:30 breakfast, how do you make that experience good for them? And I often get sometimes, not so much criticised, but sort of pulled up for going a little bit rogue and off script or, off the running sheet or whatever it might be. But it's because I can see what's going on in a room and think this isn't going well. So let's try and fix it. And the other side for me is I've got this sort of natural inclination to want to try and make sure that everybody's sort of pleased and happy. It could be the hospitality, background. I don't know what it is, but I don't really ever want to leave a room, whether it's a room of 3 or 300 or it doesn't matter. I don't really want to leave a room where some people are unhappy. And so I think the ability for me to sort of tie things together or segue or ask questions or somehow, sort of knit stuff together whilst it's on stage is probably really coming from a place of thinking, all right, how do we make the audience leave with a great experience? How do we make sure the speakers' times or the panelists are respected? How do we make sure that if people were expecting to get a particular topic discussed and we didn't lead into it, how do we make sure we recover that during the discussion so that we don't get to the end and go, oh, we forgot to allocate time to the most important stuff? So to me, that would be a fail. And so I've got this genuine interest in trying to bring out, in a really succinct manner, what's the contribution that someone can make, on a stage? How do we make sure that translates into value for an audience or a customer? And if we can kind of knit that together, that's kind of the role that I play. If it's an MC role or a panelist, Q&A facilitator or something like that, that's how I do it. But that's also why, even when we're up there in chamber events, for example, it's giving everybody else as much airtime as possible, rather than, taking that time to just talk to people about what I think is best. Because so it's always very much focused on it's other person centered is sort of what it comes down to. But that's not an easy thing to do either. So there's a lot of prep that goes into the stuff that I do. Yeah, okay. I might have a running sheet with 3 bullet points on it, but there's probably hours worth of work that's gone into who are they, what do they do, what's topical, what are some of the possible questions. And if I've got a 10-minute panel to facilitate and 3 panelists, knowing that you've only got 6 questions to ask and they can only answer that for a minute and a half each, I might have 25 questions prepped, because I may want to go from your answer to a segue to make sure we hit the right topic of conversation. And how I do that doesn't necessarily always fall in place if I just read what's on the sheet. Yeah. And I think that's probably the skill set that I've had to develop and work on, more than anything else, is the prep side. Yeah. It looks to people like I can just get up there and do it, but there's been plenty of situations where I think, oh, what the hell are you doing up here now?
Look, I'm glad you said prep, because it does look like you're well prepared on stage, and that it shines through with and preparation creates confidence. Yep. Because same thing, like whether it's a podcast or whether it's some sort of stage, like knowing little special bits of the person that may not be relevant on the day or maybe not be a question is so good for a connection. Yep. Even the people that are on the panel, for example, love that. Right? I thought, we didn't even talk about that, but you knew that. So
the nuance, I think, and this is where I have to keep learning this every time there's any opportunity to do it, is that you can't stump someone on stage and derail them, right?
No, but
you do want to extract something that's maybe a little, controversial or engaging or whatever that might be. So you've got to think about how that's positioned. A good friend of mine, Luke Marshall, always used to say, like, you don't train on game day.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So you've got to do the prep work early. And I often find sometimes that the scripting of things is actually the derailer.
100%.
So if there are people out there that are really trying to nail, looking natural and speaking and communicating naturally whilst you say on stage, I often find that I seize up when I'm trying to follow prescripted text on a page, and that's the wording, because you default to reading.
Yeah.
And if you're reading, then you're looking down. If you're looking down, you're not engaging with the audience.
Yep.
So for me, prompters are better. And then just being really, really conscious and doing the prep around how would I phrase that bullet point? So if it's an opening introduction, I'm not going to write the introduction. I'm going to think, all right, you've got to introduce Rayan. So if the audience is up and about and they're buoyant, we're going to introduce Rayan as one of the most, affable out there, exciting talent that's Geelong based, who's running these podcasts and wearing about 5 different hats. And if it's a really formal setting and we've got to open it with a bit more of an introduction, we'll say, Rayan's been, in business for a number of years, and it's probably important to note that he's got a role as a director on the chamber. So for me, if I had have written that, it would be like, well, we don't really care who the audience is, what the energy in the room is, what it feels like, and what it should be. We're just going to read it, which is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. No, I did that too. Like even with this podcast, the preparations I go through and prepare, looking at your data, your information, looking at things from the chamber website and things like that, and then I'll work through using some sort of AI thing and go, okay, cool, give me some questions and ideas and bring it all together. And then it'll give me these big, long questions. I'm like, no, okay, now make those dot points. Because I just need to know keywords that I can go like, oh, yep, I got to talk about that.
Yep.
And I'll bring that in. And also, like, I mean, I've got this thing here, which is like segment 1 to 8. Right. So it's
Are we through number 1 yet? Or?
Oh yeah, we barely touched the first question, but yeah, like you don't follow it, right? Like you probably find this yourself. Like if you try to go, oh no, we need to talk about what growth means personally and professionally, like it becomes like it just doesn't work. So you've got to know when to bring the questions in, and that's an art in itself.
It is. Look, definite training ground was spending 10 years in recruitment, because all you do is ask questions of someone else.
Yeah.
In an interview situation, particularly when you're going through those sort of screening interviews, you actually don't talk about yourself or anything really. It's always about the candidate. So there'd be weeks where you do 20 to 30 interviews. So that's 30 hours a week of questioning time, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to learn, when do you go through that sort of the 5 whys or the root cause style of questioning to really get down to the value. And if you sort of deconstruct that process and then reconstruct it, say on a stage, you can provide the situational questioning. I think is probably the best. If you're going to ask someone a question totally off track, you almost just need to reframe that situation first, and then because as they're thinking about, okay, I'm in that situation, I can probably answer it off the cuff. But if you just throw it out there in front of them, you just stump them. And to me, also that's quite fascinating. I mean, listening to a lot of podcasts, I'm a much bigger fan of the longer form podcast than the short episode version. And the reason is because of the follow-up and the questions and going those extra layers deeper and deeper and deeper. It makes the content really interesting, but also it's actually an art to ask the questions that way. You can't just sit in front of someone, and say why and keep saying why, because it's the 5 whys, right? But you can reframe it in a way that gets the really interesting stuff out of someone. But I think, look, it's practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any number of YouTube videos and training sessions you can do and then just get up in front of 400 people and smash it first time.
No, you've got to practice. And I mean, my proving ground was in the barbecue space, as you know. But I've done like 100 of these in the barbecue space, like live interviews, stage interviews, panel interviews. So that was kind of where like it didn't matter as much, but I took it really seriously.
Yep.
So I would have a panelist, 4 people in the panel with like 5 or 6 barbecue pitmasters and some from the international. And I still remember this where I was like, and so to prepare, I would listen to podcasts for each of those people, like especially the key ones, the big ones that have been on podcasts. I will listen to podcasts before and get some nuances and knowing what they answer well. And then just I think it was like Tuffy Stone, who's like this barbecue guy from the EOS, a Weber guy, great name. And I knew about his story about his mum. And I was like, I'm just going to ask that question. And it blew him away. He's like, how did you, like, what would you, and it was just those little things where if I didn't do the prep, it was still good, but you wouldn't have those cool moments where they look at you and go like, okay, you knew that bit from a podcast I talked about 3 years ago about my mum and how she talks about how to make a cake or something like that right now. So it's the prep's so valuable.
And that's the same approach that translates back into those, really strong partnerships and relationships, which that's the whole core of the chamber. Is you're going to sit down, you're going to, take someone out to a coffee, you're going to talk about how they might invest part of their business through the chamber to then help grow or get a particular outcome. And if you've just spent an entire hour with them and they've been speaking about their kids and the sport and their background and why they moved here and all that kind of stuff, you've got to retain that information.
Yeah, you do.
Because if you go there next time and you're like, so how many kids do you have again? Because I wasn't really listening last time. It doesn't work so well. The difference between, that's just basic capture, right? You can throw it in your CRM. Or if you've got a good memory, that's fine, whatever it might be. But then you don't get that opportunity when you've got a limited amount of time, say on a stage or in a workshop environment or whatever it might be. So you've just got to have that available at the start. And look, unless you've got someone up there who's totally foreign, who's got no public presence and no social media and has never done a podcast or written a piece of information in your life, there's always something out there. You can always find it.
No, that's it. And I do struggle when people do struggle to have a conversation on stage or in a podcast where then you're like, you feel like you're hunting for the question. You're like, all right, oh my God, I've got to find another one. That's when it's work. Yeah. So there's, and look, it's just, and again, that's a talent in itself. Yeah. Yep. Great. I love that. Sorry.
Well, I also enjoy it.
Yeah, well, yes.
For the people that are listening or watching, it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. And no, totally agree. And I said this to a business owner just the other day. Like, we need to do more in the community. We need to do more, webinars and sessions or whatever. And I go, but do you enjoy it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then why do it? So like, what I mean? And people know when you don't enjoy it and you're on stage, right? Yeah. And those become like the worst. Like you go to like a session or a conference or whatever, and the person on stage doesn't want to be there and they're reading from paper or whatever, and you give out that energy to the audience. Whereas like yourself, when you're on stage, you give out the energy. I want to be here. I'm here because I want to be here and I enjoy it, and it makes a massive difference.
Well, whilst we're giving expert tips as non-experts to all of the communicators out there, the other big one for us is the speaker prep, right?
Okay.
So you've got to have an alignment between, if you need to go fast, on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And they're coming with a mindset that they've done all of their prep. And there's 10 things they want to say and they're going to take 3 minutes each, and you've only got 10 minutes in total. It just doesn't compute.
No.
So what I'll often do is if I sort of play it over a few times, and it might change the week before, it might be different to the day before, it might be different to the morning of. And it's just a quick huddle to say, hey, listen, guys, I'm definitely going to ask you this first question, but then we might just have to bounce around. But if you can, just keep it super short. And if we need to pick up that thread, we'll do it. But don't feel like you need to answer, everything that comes to mind in the one question, because we'll pull out the bits. And I'll often say to people, this is where the confidence comes in. I'll say, I'll judge the audience. If they're loving it, we'll keep going. If they're not, I'm going to move you on.
Yeah.
And it actually helps their confidence a little bit, because often a lot of people don't know how their own answers are being received.
Yeah.
Unless they're super cocky and just want to talk for the sound of their own voice. And then you've got to get really good at pulling them up and stopping them. But that often gives them a sense of security to say, okay, so if I start saying something and you like it and the audience is liking it, you'll let me know. And if not, you'll cut me off. And that's probably a good thing. And they feel a bit more secure. So the speaker prep or the panelist prep or whatever it might be is really important. And just double checking, have you got notes that are actually going for 10 minutes instead of 5? Because then we've got a bit of a problem and you've got to manage.
Yeah, I get concerned in a panel when they have notes.
Yes. If you bring your file along with you, you're in trouble.
It's like, that's going to be some skills. No, that's a really good tip actually, because I did that at the EOS conference. I sort of had a panel, and Did a lot of prep, but I said that, keep it short, like just, we want to try and move it along. But I did something I sort of normally don't do, which is I said, oh, look, I want you guys to ask each other questions on stage as well. So if someone says, Stacey, if you say something, and George, if you like what you hear, just ask a question. And they did that on stage. And I actually did enjoy that. That really went well. But I didn't even get through the 6 key components I got to like halfway and I'm like, crap, we got 5 minutes to go. It was really engaging. I enjoyed, but ran out of time. Needed probably another hour and a half.
Look, I have to say, I got a really great insight to, there's great hope for the future. We had a Geelong Regional Student Advocacy Voice seminar. That's a long-winded way, but about 120 kids from the public schools in Geelong. Cool. I was just emceeing the day.
Yeah.
They tackled some serious topics like, mental health in schools, anxiety, cost of living, and if it's affecting families. And these are students between years 7 to 11. But what was quite amazing is entire day of really intensive stuff, discussion, storyboarding, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they had to present. And you've got some great confident speakers. And, I said to the kids afterwards, what do you want to do? I want to go into politics because that's kind of what good speakers do. But there were some kids that got up there who were just super brave because they showed that vulnerability trait and they were happy to get up there. And I sort of look at that and go, like that, at that level, if you're a 13-year-old and you've got to get up in front of an audience of 120 and you've never done it before, but you're like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. That's the start of something really cool. And also for those students to know that it's really important. I sort of shared some stories about, imagine if you couldn't communicate to a person, all of the things that you'd have to shut down as opportunities in your life.
Yeah. And
that was a really great engaging audience and a totally different activity for someone who's, running the chamber in front of businesses. But these students care so much because all they want to do is learn.
Yeah.
And so we just left them with a few messages about keep practicing it, keep perfecting that art of communication. And in face-to-face environments, it's really going to set people apart in decades ahead, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's, I talk about this all the time with different people where, we're in a space where everyone's sort of connected but disconnected. And that face-to-face skill, like you said, the communication skill is disappearing. So I sort of see that. I try to, especially with my kids, I tend to like, okay, now it's time to just get away from the iPad or get away from the tech and let's, hang out with your friends, and it'll like you said, it's going to make a massive difference in a few years.
Yep, it surely will.
Now look, I've got to bring it up because I'm an EOS implementer. So I've got some great questions I want to ask you. But so the chamber now runs on EOS for a year and a half now, with the amazing Chris Davies as your implementer. Tell me what what drew you to it, but then also, I guess, what have you found now being part of it? What have been like the major shifts in the way the team works and the way the team functions as a relatively flat organization too, right? So it's quite a unique team to run EOS because everyone in your team is part of the EOS journey as well, aren't they? Like they're part of that.
They are,
which is
including the board.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's huge.
So where it started really was we had that sort of classic discussion around, we need a new strategic plan. That's where it started. And the discussions we were having at the board level at the time were, look, we could get a facilitator in, we could revise the old ones, maybe put some red pen on some stuff and change some wording, whatever it might be. But it's sort of, because of COVID, the strategic planning had sort of been pushed to the side a little bit. It was too uncertain. And so it had been a really long time since any strategy had been done. And so we just started sort of shopping around, and asking our business community, well, if you were going to do a strategy session, what would you do? Or if you were going to help put together a plan for the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years, what would you do? And a lot of it was really similar. And a lot of it was about I call it the artifact. It was like having the plan, the thing on the paper or the presentation. And what didn't quite work was that we wanted to change so much about the chamber, but respectfully keep everything that was awesome about it since 1853.
Yeah.
And so after having a couple of chats with Chris, he said, look, there is a way that you can set that purpose, mission, values, niche, work out your target market, all, through this EOS implementation. And I said, that's great, Chris, but like my understanding was it was designed for that sort of founder, startup owner kind of business. And I said, I'm happy to do that, but I would really also want the board to be involved. And I think initially he said, oh, that's not how it's done. But we sort of worked on it because, look, traditionally, my understanding of EOS is that you kind of want to get the entrepreneurial traits out of the founder and the owner and the entrepreneur and kind of bring that out to the rest of the organization so that everyone shares in it. And we kind of wanted to do that, but I'm not the founder of the chamber.
Yeah.
But we still had those elements. We were still being very entrepreneurial. We had really passionate directors on the board who wanted to make sure that they could help shape it, but they didn't necessarily just want to do it. It's not like we make the call and we tell everybody. And so what we did was, there's probably two parts to it. One was we did some feedback out into the market to say, is it fit for purpose? Are there any changes? What would you like us to focus on? We didn't ask the question, if we were going to create a new strategic plan, what would you want to put in it? Because it was too prescriptive.
Yep.
So it was just gathering the different elements. And then the second part was looking at it and thinking, all right, so this isn't just going to help us create the part that sits out there as our sort of mission, purpose, values that we felt needed completely refreshing. It's actually going to change the way we work to deliver against it. And that was the big shift for us, is finding that blend of the strategic side, but then the operating rhythm to be able to really change and for all of the other benefits that EOS can provide, which was, sharing, making sure the team's aligned, but then also all of the efficiencies and everything else that comes out of it. So that's kind of where the journey began.
Yep.
And the other thing I think we've been able to do is really look into the EOS community, because there are other businesses in Geelong that are running on it. We've got great implementers, but we've also engaged with some other businesses that have got specific products and services for those that are running on EOS, because then you kind of understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
The journey, I'm sure, we're 18 months in, and we still think we're just kind of at the beginning, but it's made a massive impact to how we can deliver.
That's unreal. And it's been great to see that journey as well. And I guess be a part of the way the board looks at it as well. It's kind of the last strategic session we had with the board, which was good fun, in sort of going deep, but also for them to understand how they can, obviously when you talk about strategic plan, we talk about the vision traction organizer, the VTO. So how as a board we could actually create a strategic plan or have our thoughts as a board complement the VTO rather than try and replace it. And that was a really unique way of doing it. And I really enjoyed that session, running that recently. I guess when you look at EOS as a whole, as a leader, what's changed your way, or what's changed the most for you in how, I suppose, you come up with ideas and you sort of go down these paths of like, okay, we're going to do this. Now that we're running on EOS and you're having quarterlies and annual planning sessions, what's pivotally changed in the way you bring up these ideas?
Oh, good question, Rayan. So I sort of look at that with EOS, you learn how to get things done necessarily before you come up with new things to do. And that's kind of the culture that we've built with the chamber now, is most things start with an idea and you kind of somehow run a filter or a decision process to say, should we do it or not? And if the answer is yes, then you got to try and get it done, right? Whereas what we've been able to do with the team is create these operating systems and these processes and a structure where people have, full honesty, transparency to really test things, because they know how things get done. And that's often a better filter to decide whether or not we should do something.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example, because I'm sure this isn't unique to the chamber, but between our team, we would meet probably between 15 to 25 businesses a week, whether it's, in person or online or phone conversations. And we're having discussions with them about how we can help them. And often a lot of it ends in, hey, I've got a program. Can you is this of interest to the chamber members? Or I've got a product and I think it would really help if you take it on board and you deliver it. So a lot of the things that businesses are asking for is actually for us to help bring it in and facilitate it and send it back out as a member benefit. And usually it would have been, we don't have a leadership program, so yes, because we don't have one.
Yeah.
But what happens now is, because the team knows how we deliver things and the cadence and the timing and the rhythm and the resources that go into every element, whether it's a marketing campaign or an event operation or, running an advocacy forum, it doesn't really matter. They've got such a better understanding to help make decisions. It doesn't matter what their role is at any level.
Yeah.
And so when we bring in a new idea and we say, okay, here's the leadership program, for example, this is what it would entail. This is the operational side and the marketing side. They already know whether or not there's a capacity to do it, but they also know whether it's aligned, because you throw it all the way back up to what we've built as a team together. Mm-hmm. And does it align with our purpose? Does it align with the values? Does the business itself align with the values? Because maybe the product's awesome, but they don't really care. Ours are based around relationships matter, about having impact in the business community. I mean, if you're off track on some of those, we don't really care how good your product is. Yeah. If you just want to barge in and do something, we're not going to let you.
Yeah.
So they're all involved in that process, which takes away all of that decision-making power, say, from myself or one of the leadership team, because the team knows whether or not we can do it. And then they just have to decide whether it's a good idea, which is a total flip on how a lot of other organizations run, which is someone said it was a good idea, now we just have to make it work.
Yeah.
And so that's been the biggest change for us. So the whole team is involved in a lot of those decisions. There's so many other different tangents we could go in on this one. But the same applies for identifying when there's a problem or an issue.
Yeah.
The team's aware of it all. So they can say, all right, it looks like this thing's taking up a lot of resourcing, a lot of time. How do we get it back on track? Is it still actually aligned with what we want to do? Is it going to help businesses? Is it one of our core values is that we are business builders. So we internally and externally, all of our values apply internally and externally. But business builders for us is we have to be able to say, okay, this is helping build our business. It's helping build our membership base or our influence and advocacy or our networks. And it's also helping build your business.
Yeah.
And so if one of those is off track, the team will just say, all right, you know what? I think I don't. Is this even relevant anymore? So we've got this great ability now to say no to things and also align to what our core focus is. And that's been one of the biggest benefits of running EOS, is that the whole team shares in that now. And so we don't have that top-down hierarchy.
Yeah.
So as you say, in a very flat organization, we've got, myself, and then there's 3 other leadership team members, but there's only 3 other employees. So really we do most of that work together.
Yeah.
It's all an even playing field.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's haven't seen that yet, that ability to have the whole team in there. And I sort of work with a couple of smaller organizations too. And yeah, it's really good to see. And I love what you're saying in that sense of having the ability or having the trust, and the team having the trust with each other to be able to call out an issue or call out when something is not aligned with, where we're going and what our core focus is. That's a brilliant one to hear. So that's good. And I guess, one thing I find unique is, not unique, but something I want to talk about is, so you're the 10-year target for the chamber, which is, you probably quote it better than I can.
So by 2035,
yep,
that Geelong will be one of the top 20 places to do business globally. That's it.
And look, I think with that target in mind, and I suppose, reading your recent article in regards to why Geelong isn't a global city, what's the gap? What do we need to do to try and get to that top 20 spot?
Wow, here we go, Ryan. So
that was a quick segue away from EOS.
Just generally speaking, this whole idea of, does Geelong have the right identity and the right vision has been going on for way longer than you and I have been operating here. Mm-hmm. What's really interesting is that I think because of the way you can do business now, and I mean in terms of you can start up shop tomorrow and go and find an international client, right? It's super easy. It doesn't have the same operational restrictions that you might have had, say, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. Because of that, the measures that Geelong holds itself accountable to can be quite different and quite situational. So personally, and this is more of a personal opinion as one of the leaders across Geelong, I think having the most simplest vision that everybody can rally around, but that is inclusive enough for everybody to be a part of, is probably the most important thing that's completely missing in Geelong right now.
Yeah.
When you ask someone what's the vision for the city and they start rattling off opportunities, it's not a vision. And so for the chamber, there are global benchmarks for what makes a great economy and for what makes good business practice in the world. And there's a handful of different measures for what makes a good city. So I've said this in public forums before, but for example, I don't see any reason why Geelong's vision shouldn't be something as simple as we want to be one of the top 50 cities in the world. Mm-hmm. Because if you go a layer, so that's simple for everyone to understand. It basically means you want to be one of the best, right? Now, for something like that to happen, you need to have a self-sustaining economy. You need to have great jobs, great career paths, great education that leads into that. You've got to have really good health services. You've got to have good transport. You've got to have sustainable practices, around renewables and energy. You've got to have thriving precincts that are utilised. You've got to have hospitality scenes. You've got to have entertainment. You've got to have great sporting and tourism assets. So for me, the vision is about, rather than think about what's important to a particular leader at a particular time and being too niche, it's having that sort of 10-year or even 50-year vision. It's fine, but it's something that can be practically achieved. Yeah. And I think where we might have struggled in the past as a region, we've had some things like being clever and creative. That's not really a measurable for whether we can achieve a vision. Yeah. You can be clever and creative. I think I'm pretty creative, but you should see my drawings, right? My 3-year-old comes home with better creativity with her crayons than I can draw on a piece of paper. Creative thought, all that kind of stuff can go into it. But what I'm saying is, unless you have something that's a guiding star that people can actually move towards and you can benchmark it and you can get everyone involved in it, you just don't have a vision that's all encompassing and inclusive. And so the reason why we settled on this, and this was part of a vision that was created by the board and the team and through feedback, is that we do want to be a global center of business. We already have global businesses here, but that's not a measure of whether you're globally competitive and you're globally attractive. Yeah. And that's probably the difference between, are we bringing in investment and are we investable? Because they're two different things. And then some of those other measures for us will be, are businesses from within Geelong, Victoria, Australia and around the world choosing to be here because of what we offer, because that's going to be the measure of whether we're globally competitive. And to us, that is something that we can strive towards, and it's something that you can benchmark. There are indexes for best places to do business around the world. Yeah.
And I suppose it's you sort of say the rally call for Geelong as a whole. And but I guess as the chamber, we only can do so much as well, right? But how do we rally the rest along with us? Because I totally agree with you. I think just having something like clever and creative, it just really doesn't resonate with me to want to achieve something. But if you broke apart that rock and that 10-year target, and you went, okay, cool. So this industry every industry can play their part, or every sector can play their part to bring us there. But then what's the missing? I look at it and I go, what's the missing connection for us to do that as a whole of Geelong? How do we tie everyone together, so to speak?
Well, I think firstly, what's missing is just picking a vision that doesn't get changed.
Yeah.
there's been plenty of different vision statements from different organizations over time. It just doesn't help. It derails it. It goes back through an iterative process that involves different stakeholders and whoever else, different leaders that have moved in recently. I mean, I think if you said to Barwon Health that we want to be one of the top 50 global cities in a 10-year period, they know what global health standards look like, and they know what world's best practice looks like. So they can continue on that journey being one of the best health providers at the moment, but also progressing people in the health sector that can rally around them, who are part of the broader community service offerings and all the rest of it. So that kind of thing makes sense.
Yeah.
I think what doesn't make sense is when you lean into something that's a little bit more industry specific, because now you're excluding the others.
Yep.
Or if that industry doesn't work out the way you thought it did, or commodity prices change, or you don't get those large contracts and investments, then all of a sudden your vision's dead. So that's why I think having the right overarching grandiose statement, but is also quite practical, that people can get around and can actually use it as a benchmark. Global benchmarks, world benchmarks, there's measurables in there for happiness. Like you can actually measure the happiness of your community. It can be done. You can measure the health of your community. There's organizations in Australia that have been doing pilot programs in how healthy different suburbs are. So you can tie all of that in. And in a business sense, I think the clever and creative component really came out too when the UNESCO designation for Geelong was made. And that is really important, but it's also totally underutilized. We have a World UNESCO designation as a city of design. Now, for those that don't quite understand it, design isn't architectural. It's not about a physical design necessarily. It's about how a city can design itself. So it means, how do you design so that people can move through the city, in terms of transport and amenity? And how do you design a city that is healthy? How do you design a city that has a thriving economy? And so when we look at that from a business sense, at the moment, the Chamber's role is to help drive business success, but at a slightly higher level, which is where we advocate to, whether it's government or council, etc. We're really not trying to design a business-friendly environment, and we're way off designing a globally competitive business environment.
Yep.
And so there's still a disconnect with the old vision, or the vision statements that are made around that, because we kind of got off track a bit. So I think it's important in these discussions, and again, like there's so many incredible leaders in Geelong that can weigh into this. I think what we need to do is make sure that it's set and it's relevant and it can get robustly tested, that it's not going to get derailed, and then we all move towards it. If it needs to be slightly adjusted at some point, that's okay. But we tend to, as new people come in and old guards move out, we tend to just start again. And that's not a vision. That's just thinking about the next short-term window.
And that's it. And there's usually egos that play into that as well. I struggle with it.
With the vision?
Yeah. No, not nothing to do with the EOS, nothing to do with the chamber point of view, but it's kind of what I want for Geelong. But then it's, I think, this disconnect as a resident, as a small business operator, and sort of being part of this large bunch of cogs that are turning in the town, in the city. That that'd be great, that'd be amazing. But I think, how do you?
So I'll give you another example. Right, is that we've got a handful of the lowest socioeconomic postcodes in the whole of Victoria here in Geelong. And so there are some great people doing incredible work at that social enterprise level. There's a concept out there that the Chamber's actually exploring with the City of Geelong through one of our corporate partner events called Community Wealth Building. And community wealth building is about having agency, it's about having leverage, and it's about having an opportunity for people who don't already have monetary wealth or asset wealth, but to be able to have that that sense of wealth and control around not just themselves and their family, but it might be their business, or it might be their community, or it might be their their group or their network of people. And so, again, there's global best practice in that space.
Yeah.
And there's I know that Bill Mithen, with his new business, Neighbourhood Economics, spent a lot of time overseas going out and looking for what works. That's great. So he's brought that back to Geelong, and he's doing some great work on it. And there's a lot of other organisations in that social enterprise space that are at the coalface. We meet lots through the chamber who are running programs with people who don't have the same opportunities that a lot of others do. But if you had a vision that was to ensure that that part of the economy and that part of the community was running with a global best practice in mind, and that everybody else involved across every other industry was bringing you in as part of that and wanted you there, that would be incredibly empowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't have these standalone industries, and you're not trying to fight to be part of the vision that Geelong wants to invest into because you happen to be an emerging industry or an industry with more employees than the others. You just become part of the whole thing. And that's when I think we can actually lift up the entire city, is that when everybody says, all right, well, we're all in it together. And if I want to do my own thing as a business or an organization or an industry, I'm going to be the outlier. So I need to make sure that we're all doing this for the right good. And I don't think anyone's cracked that yet.
No, that's where I was heading with that. It's like, how do you crack that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
you need to get the whole 260,000 population somewhere all together.
Let's get them on a podcast. Let's get them on a webinar.
Good idea.
But no, like, I think it's, and that's kind of way, I love it. I love it as a goal and as a vision for the city. But yeah, it's just, how do you bring it all together? And then also it's just I guess being here for 25 years and seeing the slow pace over the last 25 years, or how things change and things that, change for different, goes in different directions. So as a local, sort of kind of just getting a little bit like, okay, well, yeah, that's great. But
look, there's always going to be the bumps, right?
Yeah. Always.
I think it depends. I don't know how sidetracked you want to get, but we keep getting asked about AI because it affects business quite significantly. But the flip of the coin for us is that there are obviously a lot of jobs that will be replaced. There's also a lot of opportunity to add jobs. And I was speaking with someone yesterday about this opportunity specifically for Geelong, because there are some great AI organisations here that are working with, say, SME construction companies. And the AI application for them is that they can have customer service more automated. They can quote projects for incoming inquiries through the use of AI, and they can follow up, through their accounts receivable and payable through AI. So some of those automated tasks in the business means that the founder or the owner is freed up with their time, and they've put on extra apprentices. So they've actually created jobs out of it.
Yeah.
Now, if you apply that overlay with 97% of the businesses in Geelong are SMEs, there's actually a pretty awesome opportunity for businesses to lean into AI, because a lot of those organizations don't have roles that will necessarily be replaced. Don't get me wrong, if you're a Big Four bank, there's so many jobs that will probably go, and we've already seen ANZ, cull thousands already.
Yeah.
But that's, sort of a handful of job types with thousands of employees doing the same job. But for us, it's also thinking about, what are the opportunities to get people in, or get businesses involved in different emerging technologies or emerging trends. Because when you say things have moved slowly, often it doesn't translate all the way out to the different tentacles in business.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got a handful of businesses that are doing something that's really on trend.
Yep.
And you might see a couple of businesses that are involved and highly active and show stuff online and get involved with the chamber, and they're doing well. And then the next part is, well, how do you then reach saturation to offer that? And that's the challenge.
Yeah, I wasn't, I guess, talking more. I wasn't talking really about business more than just as a town in a whole. Like, we just seem to, I don't know. We've come a long way, but it just seems like there's a lot of
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of talk about prosperity and opportunity, and you've got to make good on it. Otherwise, they're just throwaway lines.
Yeah.
But the shift that we hear from our members is that it's actually happening.
Yeah.
So go back 20 years, how many big recognizable brands had invested into the CBD? Hardly any.
Yeah.
The first movers were public service, and we've got incredible businesses, WorkSafe, TAC, NDIS, ABS have got a good presence, etc. And then what's followed from there are these big recognizable brands. You know, they're in consulting, they're in banking, they're in finance, they're in property. And whether or not you like large business, those businesses are taking out big retail investments, they're taking out big commercial leasing investments. And then they're also helping to fund the new development that goes on in our business precincts, which is where the mid businesses turn up, and then that's where the retailers turn up down the bottom, and your coffee shop set up. So because you can tangibly see that, you can start to see how Geelong's growth is coming through and that people are more invested. And then you overlay that with the population boom and the housing targets, et cetera, there's a lot that has to be made good on for it to be fully capitalized. But I think what the feedback and the sentiment that we're getting is that finally or eventually or excitingly, it's actually shifting.
Yeah.
And we're not too reliant on any one industry or one or two big organizations like the past that fell over.
Yeah, which
that
is
just derails all the progress.
Yeah. No, look, it's definitely a different city to 25 years ago when I moved here.
Yeah.
And look,
I think it's the J curve, right?
Yeah,
we had a thriving city that was known for its manufacturing base and its agricultural base and a bunch of other stuff. Totally dropped and bottomed out when some of those businesses went belly up. Started to come out of it, but it's probably just come back and maybe surpassed where it used to be. But now that exponential curve is growing really quickly.
Yeah.
The challenge is just really to try and not put the brakes on that.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a land release problem or a planning problem or a development problem, and then you've got the talent and workforce shortages. Like all of those things are big, chunky challenges to try and solve for the growth of the city. And the end result for us as a chamber is the more population, the more businesses you need to serve it. And the more businesses you've got, the more opportunity there is for us to be able to support that thriving economy. So a lot of those little things interplay, and they're all connected. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're sort of sitting here in 3 years' time and we're like, there's more has happened in the last 3 years than has in the last 30. Like it's just going to start to grow that quickly.
That's looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. Now, I guess say 3 years. What do you see the chamber in 3 years with the way we're progressing and what what we put into place this year, which I guess is some building blocks for growth and sort of the way the memberships are going to go. But yeah, where do you see the chamber in 3 years?
So we're just coming out probably the last phase of transitioning, different products, different services, different operating rhythm. And as we come out of that, I think what we'll see is, I think we'll have a chamber that has incredibly strong advocacy and understanding of the business community that is also used for some really influential purposes. And the political side for Geelong is often based around political cycles, right? So I feel like the state government cycle has already started and it's not until November 2026, but there's always an interest from business because they are either governed or by law and through different policies have to comply back into that space. So it's always a hot topic. Change is always hard. And so what we're focusing on moving forward is making sure that the right policy decisions are being made. But I think there's also a real opportunity for the chamber to help guide businesses through that change. Yeah. Because if you look at how law comes into effect, and then a good example would be some of the workplace relations changes. If it's at federal level, they basically say, here's the changes and here's the date that there's an effect. So you get to know the knowledge of what they are. It doesn't necessarily help businesses get through those challenges. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to lean into that a bit further. Yep. So almost coach or help businesses through how to make the change, how to implement it, how to deal with it. And there are some interesting ones on the table with obviously work from home mandates, et cetera. But the big opportunity for the chamber is how do we really start to create these incredible environments where businesses can come together and learn. And I'd almost say, if you think back to, say, the emergence of co-working spaces and so forth, Geelong's really lacked opportunity for businesses to receive programs and to receive development and to sort of mix in with those different communities, because a lot of the provisions we used to have disappeared. And so the Chamber's really stepping into, how do we bring in, say, more of the startup community or more of the accelerator and emerging business community? How do we tap into the large organizations who have been through that or can support that? And so I think what we'll see is some really practical, tangible service or products that can come through to business that really helps drive the business success, that is getting away from perhaps that sort of speaker informative insight kind of thing and more into the practical application of it. Yeah.
I just want to take us back to the EOS side of things. And, EOS has got some amazing tools that as an implementer, I help implement. But one of those tools is Colby. And we've talked about this off air, and it's been something I want to talk to you about. But so for those that, I guess, don't know what a Colby profile is, it's just a profile that gives you 4 simple numbers, which represent 4, modes of operation that give you how you instinctively work as a human. And so we've got 4 areas, like, as you know, which is fact finder, follow through, quick start, and implementer. And fact finder is like how you share and gather information. Follow through is how you do the work, not necessarily whether you do the work or not. So, it's just whether you're well organized or whether you're kind of just find the quickest way to do something kind of person. And then you got the quick start is basically how well you handle risk and your risk appetite. So basically at the lower end, you kind of you like the way things are. And at the higher end, you're happy to try and move things forward and experiment and get things done. And implementer is not to do with the not whether you can implement something, but it's about the tool. So how you work with the tactile world and whether you're good with your hands and good with sport. So that's a very brief discussion, but do you want to share your numbers with us? And I'd love to go deep on this one.
Yeah. So relatively new to Colby, but I've done a pile of work just getting into it. Like, it's just so interesting, and we've just started to implement it across the team. So my numbers are 5, 5, 9, and 2.
Yeah.
And it's when you do these assessments, like personality assessments, cognitive assessments, whatever, there's usually an element of okay, I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
But I'm always interested in for me, it's more the perception or the application of it.
Yep.
Because I learned a pretty interesting lesson not so long ago about the value of understanding those things.
Please share.
Well, I think when you come up through operational environments like hospitality, you typically everything you've got is on display, right? So you're out there, with a team of people. You're often leading by example. People can see you providing direction. Asking for things, like, it's just there. And so, I remember when I joined, not long after I joined Medibank, and I had multiple teams, and then started the sort of leadership journey, and they have these 360-degree assessments.
Oh, yeah.
And so quite naturally, I'm someone who, I'm a bit of an interceptor. So I don't want things to get bad. I almost try and keep things away from people. So that's sort of in my nature.
Yep.
Quite protective. Might come from being the eldest of 5 kids. I don't really know, but it's a bit of a human nature trait for me. So managing these teams, doing everything for the right reasons also, I thought. And then we did this 360-degree assessment. So it involves a lot of my team, etc. And I remember when I was reading the results, I just got this hollow, kick in the guts feeling because of what came back. And I was, the reason is, so on some of the stronger traits around, leading from the front and some of the sort of, the staunch traditional strong leadership stuff, it was fine. But it also had this opportunity for people to provide just free text feedback. And it came back really, really low on supporting teams during challenging times. And I was like, what the hell? That's all I do.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I spent half my life on. And I was reading into it, and there were some comments like, when things get tough, he just disappears. And it like that kind of comment.
Wow.
And I was trying to reflect on it, and I had some great people at Medibank, and one of them, someone who I report into for pretty much my whole time, Andrew Retzko, and he's like, we're sort of talking through it, and the reason why it came back is if I could see some trouble coming, or something was getting derailed, or there was a stakeholder that was, irate with one of my teams, I would place myself between the situation and the team member. So at one end of the scale, you'd say, look, I would say something's not going well, just leave it with me. And then the team would just see me disappear. And the reason is I wasn't communicating that I was stepping in, blocking it, intercepting, fixing it for them so it didn't get further down the track and become a big issue and affect them.
Yeah.
But the perception of that was that I would just leave. I'd just be gone. And the same would happen when there was big workload. So, in a recruitment team, it's just insane project management. You've got roles to fill, people coming in, candidates, and the operational side of recruitment is quite exhaustive. And so when the workloads were getting really big, I would often sometimes take some of the work so that it didn't hit the team, which meant that I was disconnected and removed from the team, which looked like when things were getting tough, I was just disappearing. So I remember it actually took quite a while to unpack. And since that point, so I've invested a lot of time and effort into understanding who I am and what I do and how to get better, but also how that's communicated and perceived, because that was the missing link for me. I kind of knew the strengths and I knew what I could do really well, but not conveying that to the team and not sharing, whether it's the profile or the results or what it looks like to some people might be what it looks like to or how you feel about it was the real disconnect. And that's why I've done a lot of them. I've done a lot of different versions. I've done a lot of leadership development. But the Colby one was a bit of a game changer because of what it assesses and how you can utilize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so I've I guess my score is 3764 for the listeners out there. But ultimately, I did a Colby probably 6 to 8 years ago, and I got the same numbers when I did it more recently as well, different roles and things like that. So it's actually quite interesting. That's the bit that really got to me. And, sort of if you look at Fact Finder was probably the bit that now that I'm teaching Colby in my sessions, I would be there talking about Fact Finder. And then I sort of did a little bit of, I guess, self-reflection on my 10 plus years in a sort of a leadership role in the IT industry and how much that role was going against my Fact Finder score, which was I was on a low Fact Finder, which means too much information. Sort of, I don't need it, but also I struggle with too much because I just kind of block out. But in a service delivery leadership role, that's literally it. You almost had to always find out more detail all the time. It was like digging into issues, digging into problems and working out why it went wrong or working out how the system can work a bit better. So I was constantly, and I remember being so sort of tired and not really enjoying that role because of that. I was sort of sitting in that space. I'm reflecting now as an implementer, going, well, we had these numbers when I was there. It didn't do anything about it.
Well, it's really the interpretation is really important. I mean, with Colby, the sort of, I call it the energy distribution. It's probably the most important part. I've got a balanced score on finding facts and data and information. It's 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I've also got a balanced score on how to do the work.
Yeah. Follow through. Yeah.
Having a plan, the follow through, etc.
Yeah.
So that's quite even. So it sort of doesn't bother me whether we have to find it or we don't. But the challenge, and it was quite enlightening for me, is being a 9 quick start.
Yeah.
I just got to get going.
Yeah.
And so I think the nuance out there, and we've had a really brief discussion with this across the organisation, but we're about to go into a fair bit more detail with all of the team members because it's fascinating stuff, is that if you said to me, can you go and spend 2 weeks finding the facts, create the plan, and then you're allowed to get started? Just not that interested.
Yeah. If
we can get started and find them out along the way, it's likely going to be the same end outcome.
Yeah.
But it just gets me involved because I'm sort of building it as we go. And the other big one, just because these are the highs and the lows in the Colby score, is the implementer side.
Yeah.
Mine's just very it's just very conceptual in terms of the solution. So I don't need to sort of see it, feel it, touch it. Like it's not, I don't need to see how things work necessarily. Just the conceptual design's fine. So, you know, if you can paint a picture for me, the answer is probably yes. Like it's fine. I can kind of get it.
Yeah.
But we've got people in the business who don't have those same traits. And so they need that from me to demonstrate the background. And so, I mean, I sort of look at this and the Kolbe assessment itself and the depth that you receive in terms of the report is the first phase. What we're really interested in doing is how you link up. Okay, so how does that profile match with, say, my marketing person or, with my salesperson? And then, like, AI tech's great. You can also use a couple of prompts around, what are the derailers in these profiles, right? Yeah. So what's it going to look like that's going to cause conflict or misalignment? And I think for Kolbe, for me, if you look at, so there's a couple of things. It's hard to sort of explain to people, through a podcast, but you got 4 measures, you got 4 scores on each of those. What Kolbe does is it actually aligns them horizontally. Yeah. Which is kind of a way of saying, for me, if I want to get the best energy, do the best quality work, be the most efficient for my personal profile, you kind of line it up in order, right? So it's like, I need to just get started first. Yep. And then as I get started, we'll find the facts we need. The follow through becomes part of that. And then at the end of it, we can probably be okay with coming up with something that's conceptual. Doesn't have to be a physical kind of tangible artifact. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so you reframe that for a team member who has, let's say the opposite profile, and they're working in an environment that's uncomfortable, that creates stress, that might impact the quality of their delivery. And this is where I find it so fascinating, is that you can start to understand how an instruction I might have given, a couple of weeks ago, the way that I do stuff might have actually caused some instant stress for someone. Yeah. Because it's not how they do it. Yeah. And that's why any of these is great. There's been some others that I've used in the past that even, I would say probably the most simple leadership development processes have probably been the best. Mm-hmm. And there's one that comes to mind, which is, it's called the Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder feedback method or something like that. Yeah. But basically it's you got to go to several people in the business that are your, most integral stakeholders that you either deliver to or you're accountable to. And you just ask them for one thing that they need you to do better. And that's it. Yeah. But the uncomfortable part of that is you've got to find something that you can do for them in that space. And then you've got to commit to actually telling them and updating them how you're getting better. Right? Yeah. So, Rayan comes back and says, all right, Jeremy, I really need you, to make sure that that your data is 100% accurate every time. And then I've got to basically report back to you and say, hey, and you got to use the right words, right? You've got to say, hey, Rayan, I committed to making sure that my data was 100% accurate for you. Here's what I've done this week to make sure that works for you. And it was all in the delivery. It's not rocket science, right? But it's getting people and building the habits and the skills to be able to deliver upon the commitment. And what we're committed to at the Chamber with Kolbe is really making sure we understand people. That's kind of what it comes down to. It's not about how we apply the profiles to get more work done or to make sure that we can strategize and conceptualize better because we know that some people like it and some, it's nothing to do with that. Yeah. It's all about how to create a better cultural environment, better understanding, and make sure that people are working the way that makes them the most comfortable, because that's when they have the most energy. You have the most energy, you have the better culture, and like we're really excited about how to use it across the organization. No, it's awesome. And I think that's exactly, I mean, that's the main purpose, is like how to understand each other, understand yourself to begin with, and understand your team. And then look for those discrepancies between the numbers. So, I mean, quick start 9, that's right up there. Like 1 point away from a 10 there. But yeah, that quick start can be quite confronting to someone that's a low quick start that kind of needs a bit more time to think about it, like a low quick start, high follow through and a high fact finder is going to need a bit more time. Yeah. So for me, mine's 3, 7, 6, 4. So I'm I like a process first. Yep. And then I'll start.
So that's kind of like my normal way of going.
So why not just start and build the process? Right?
Well, yeah. So it's exactly.
But there's a great learning here. Like the chamber often gets asked to be a thought leader in different stuff. There's plenty of places that we just can't have that area of expertise. But there's a really good lesson here around, let's say, the evolution of our chamber as a business. So take away the fact of what we do and how we do it. If you go back 2 years, I sort of came in and there's so many different opportunities that were all new, right? It's like, well, we don't do this, let's just do it. We don't have this event, let's do it. We don't have this program, let's do it. We didn't have this knowledge around what my natural inclination was, what the team's profiling was. And what happened was, like, we did too much, to be perfectly honest. We learned a lesson around doing everything for the right reason and all the stuff that people wanted, and there was high demand, but we just burned out. Like we did too much stuff. And a lot of it was because I was coming in saying, let's get started on this. We didn't have, say, an EOS, an operating system where the team was empowered to say, nah, there's not enough capacity.
Yeah.
So that hadn't existed yet. So by bringing that in, it helped filter a lot of those decisions. And then you overlay that now with a better understanding of the people within it. And now we understand that if we do want to do something, how the individuals can do it. So it's just an evolution. It's just a maturity for us. But, I can sit there and put my hand up and say, I can tell you why it wasn't working a couple of years ago and why the team was burnt out and overburdened. And it's because I was coming in with new ideas. I wanted to get started. We didn't have a filtering system for the team they didn't have agency to say no. And so therefore that's the environment it created. We were just going super fast all the time. So you look back and go, oh, wow, if we had have done, Colby and we had EOS at the time, it would have been great. But we just use that now as ammunition in terms of our impact moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's just, you as business owners, business leaders, you learn and you grow, right? And it's hindsight what, 2020? Like it's nice to know, but at the same time, all we can do is share these tools as well in this kind of forum to be able to just go, there's things out there you can try. And I think being mindful of once you do go down this, I was speaking to a couple of clients where I said, look, take the Colby, and there's a couple of things you do. One thing you go, yep, that's great. And you might not do anything with it. But the real value comes in with what you're trying to achieve there. It's like get the whole organization to do it, understand how everyone works, understand the nuances. And it's kind of thing is like, I look at this and I go, I know, so I'm a low fact finder, but that doesn't give me an excuse for not as well. So you've got to meet in the middle. So if there's someone that's a high fact finder, you've got to spend a bit of time and we work on that together.
And the other part about Colby is, like, it's important to know it's a measure of your natural
instinct,
right?
Yeah.
So you might actually be an incredible fact finder as a skill set.
Yep.
It just takes your energy away, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to, and there's probably times where you can do it, and you can probably do it brilliantly.
And that goes to my point with where I was, right? Like, I had to, and we spent a lot of time in that space, but instinctively, I don't enjoy it.
I mean, so my fact finding is a 5. It's in the middle. Yeah. But I sort of look at that and think that's actually probably for me an average, because there are some topics and areas where I go super deep.
Yep.
Like, I'll give you a good example of it. Like, personal health for me has been challenging, but also it's an area that I'm so invested into. And I swear I've done a nutritionist degree and physical science degree. Like, the amount of information and research and effort, and we're talking like scientific and medical journal stuff, right?
Wow. Cool.
So I'm happy to do it when I need to.
When we've got the interest.
Absolutely. And also perhaps if it's preventing the starting. Like, I'm a quick start, but if I can't figure out how to start, I have to go back and do something different. So it's probably a good average for me. Whereas if I think I've got enough information and we can probably get started and go along the way, that's kind of where the Colby comes into it. But there's always an interpretation to it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And you can live outside of your space as well. And there's a couple of examples at the conference as well about people, sort of forcing themselves into a way of working to suit others. And that was a confronting little story that was shared by JK, one of the Colby experts, was that lady that, sort of then said, okay, how would I answer this if I naturally wanted to work? And she got a completely different score. So being true to yourself when you take a test like this is really important, because otherwise, if you you go there and go like, I'm a high fact finder and blah blah blah. It's just not gonna
Yep.
not gonna be good for you.
No, that's true.
But and look, again, good for hiring as well. So the Colby C plays a role in that too, where you can actually use it to go like, okay, we need this kind of person. Like for example, someone in finance, high fact finder, high follow through. You kind of want that. You don't want a 9 quick start. It's sort of in the finance seat, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's powerful in that sense as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the many tools we work with. But yeah, it was an interesting one because I've really gotten fascinated over it in the last 6 to 12 months myself, and just sort of seeing it. And then it's nice when I hear someone's numbers and I go like, oh, that's yeah.
Oh, and look, you can't help it, but we've started applying it personally. Pretty sure my wife's about to take the test. We might even get our son to do it. Trying to figure out how to motivate a 13-year-old who's in year 7. Like this is sort of providing some understanding. But what I was kind of explaining to a few people, the whole idea of a 2 implementer and sort of like what it sounds like. And what's come back is whenever someone's trying to say, can you come here? Can I show you? My immediate response is like, can you just tell me? Like, I don't want to remove myself from doing the dishes so I can go in the backyard to understand what you nailing an ollie on a skateboard is. Like, I know what it looks like. Just tell me you did it.
Yeah. That would be my son. My son will be a high implementer because I get a lot of, they got to see how this works. I'm like, just tell me. I get it.
Yeah. So we're going to have a bit of fun with it.
No, that's good. Look, I've got to get the family to do it. I think there's some kid versions too. So have a look at the website. Yeah, there's slightly different questioning as well because I think the question's a little bit advanced for the young'uns.
That's true.
So yeah, then there's a version that's a bit more kid friendly. So keep an eye out for that. Look, again, I'm really excited that the chamber's running on EOS, and that's one of those things that it's a real nice shift, and EOS is quite prevalent in Melbourne. So there's quite a bit. You go to Melbourne, I go to business events in Melbourne, and you go, oh yeah, we know EOS, or we're already working on EOS, or we read traction, and we're using the tools because everything in EOS is you can do it yourself. So it's really cool to see the chamber doing it and having some great success and driving that I guess increasing the speed. Traction off the business, so that's great.
Yeah. Oh, and I think there's plenty of different product services, different solutions for businesses out there. I think for a business like the chamber, I sort of describe it as I went through probably 10 years of just reading business books.
Yep.
All I did was read them. I didn't do anything with them.
Yeah.
So all of those lessons and those learnings, it's almost like you can take, say, top 20, top 50 business books, whether it's people focus, system, process, whatever. And if you did condense it and bundle it up with an execution plan, that's the book Traction, that's EOS.
Yeah.
And so there was just a scale and efficiency for us, not having to then go and do separate strategic planning, separate people analysis, separate this, separate that, because it's all kind of
tied
bundled.
Together.
So for some businesses, it may not suit, and for a lot of businesses, it obviously does. But in terms of pointing people in the right direction, like if you read the book Traction and you think this is nothing new, it's likely not. But when you collect it together and you combine it, and you actually execute it, execution is often the worst barrier for businesses, right?
Well, yeah, it's discipline and accountability. Like you inject that into a business, it's amazing what it does. And then if you have a structure to implement that, that's kind of what EOS gives you.
Yep. And I was explaining this to a business leader that was mildly interested in how we were going on this journey the other day, and they said, but such and such an author has written on that, and there's already an organization. And I said, yeah, they do. How many of those can you put in place individually? Because for us, it was a matter of we don't have any of it. How do we try and get the essence of all of it?
Yeah.
And that's probably where we saw the opportunity to implement it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, keen to see how that journey goes. And yeah, like I said before, excited that the whole team's part of that. So look, we can't not talk about what's coming up, and depending on when this podcast gets released, or may have just happened, but the Business Excellence Awards is around the corner. Exciting times. It's how many years now for the business? This has been one of the longest running business awards for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And look, it was running before the chamber was involved.
Yeah,
so
right.
The chamber took over a number of years ago, but look, the big change this year is really the different format of the presentation night is probably the most exciting thing, combined with the, again, continued increase in the quality of the finalists that are involved.
Yeah.
And so the last 3 years especially, the leaders and the businesses that are engaging in the program, and I say program deliberately because what happens when you enter as a business in the awards is you have your business assessed, and then there are these opportunities to learn about what's going well and what's not, because the Business Excellence Awards assesses the whole business. You get to know what's going on in your finances, in your marketing, in your customer service, in your tech, etc. And you're also engaging with expert judges, and those judges are business owners, successful leaders across the business community. And so they're conducting site visits and interviews, etc. So there's this whole sort of melting pot of, discussion and an experience for people that they actually really love the lead up to it. But on the night itself, on October 30th, we've partnered with the Geelong Arts Centre, which is they are just so professional.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good at producing events, right? And so it was a risk. Like we've sort of had a similar format to the awards for quite some time. Previously it's been that sort of sit down dinner, long awards night, etc. But the components that have come together for this night will just be an absolute wow experience. And we're using the entire venue precinct. It's the entire art centre. It's not just one room, one venue. And so there's a full journey that's been mapped out. And the people that are lucky enough to attend on the night, I mean, as we speak now, there's less than 40 tickets left.
I know, right? It's so good.
So we may be speaking to an audience that doesn't get access, but they will for next year.
You can watch the highlight reels.
But look, the Business Excellence Awards, it's more than an awards night because people are bringing their teams to help reward and recognize, celebrate. Yeah. There's also just being in amongst an environment where there's just a feeling of you're in just an awesome place to do business.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do that in a space where you've got, 550 businesses that are all doing the same thing and they're all sort of enjoying that element and that sort of feeling. And they're also, this is a first. I mean, there's sort of this immersive entertainment experience upon arrival. There's an Oscars style presentation for the awards. There's multiple entertainment venues just after the awards. There's catering. We're flipping what the Art Centre looks like because it won't look anything like it when it's full of people. And so the Art Centre team, the Geelong Art Centre team, has been absolutely incredible. But for the business community as well, it's just one of those experiences that the proof will be in the pudding, but we know people are going to walk away going, we probably can't wait for the next one, which is going to be 12 months later.
Well, this is my first one. So I haven't been to a single one before.
Yeah.
I'm really, really, obviously really, really excited. And, but I guess, look, I mean, I got to ask the really important question here. Oscar night theme. What are you wearing? Who are you wearing, actually?
If you're asking me to drop some labels of suit manufacturers, you're barking up the wrong tree. My wardrobe is probably just about as big as your bookcase in the corner there, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, so a lot of the same books as well.
Same books, yeah. That's about right. There's about 5 colours. I've got about 5 outfits. So in terms of the theme, it's a really interesting one because this is one of the largest production and stage environments that's in Geelong.
Yeah.
So just the feeling of being a sponsor, handing over an award on the stage, the feeling of winning the award as a business, where you've got this full amphitheater of people looking down at you, is going to be something really, really
very
special.
different, isn't it? Yeah.
Really different.
Yeah.
And the other side to it is our team has gotten really good at how we celebrate success in different mediums. So in the lead up to the event, post-event, we've got some incredible media partners through Bay 93.9 FM and the Times, and there is a full spotlight on the winners and the sponsors and all the stakeholders. So yeah, I mean, I can't tell you what I'm wearing. It definitely won't be a colour.
I was thinking the orange. I was going to wear full orange for
But
EOS.
just a little teaser, there might be a little, paparazzi style media wall somewhere for you to pretend like you're at the Oscars.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I'll get a photo with you.
Oh, fantastic! That's all. Actually, I was leading towards just that, really. But yeah, because I was thinking about it. I've got pretty I think there's every EOS implementer wears the same thing, which is a t-shirt and a sports jacket and a pair of sports shoes. So I need to change that up for the Oscar night, right? I think we need to change it up a little bit. And I don't. Yeah, my suit. The last suit I bought was in 2010, I think. So it's been a little while. Yeah, I think it's time to. Step up for a
hopefully you're the same size and shape.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Thankfully, yes. Except for the one you go to Bali and you get a suit made. That suit doesn't fit anymore.
A little bit over tailored.
Yeah, a little bit too customized. Didn't have nowhere to grow. So, no, that's good. Look, I'm really looking forward to it. And I think it is a great celebration of Geelong businesses. And, speaking to some of the past winners, like Cabinets by Computers and things like that, just speaking to them and how much it means to them. I think that's an iconic photo of them winning the awards and the hugs on stage.
Yeah, that's right.
And you see that and you go yep. Because I think we go into business not necessarily for the awards. And, you obviously want to grow and help people along the way and then grow your team and things like that. But to get that recognition and to celebrate it with your team is so powerful. And it really, it gets you thinking about, what's next? How do I grow? And like you said, you get this full analysis of your business.
Yep.
And here's your results based on, a benchmark. And to be able to go, okay, cool, we can improve it. And then maybe come back and do it again.
And it's a good example of, someone like Justin and the team at Cabinets by Computer, not long after they won those awards, and there's a huge amount of media presence, and we use that as marketing promotion for a very long time. They were putting up roles to recruit and getting hundreds of applicants.
You were saying that, that's unreal.
Because people recognise it. But not only that, Justin went through our leadership program and was an incredible contributor to that. We've asked him to speak at a few events about sharing his business story. And so really, really quickly, that business became one that a lot of our community is really aware of and then wanted more of, and then to sort of hear on that success. And what we love to see, because if we can take a step out of that and not be the main driver and it's quite self-sufficient, and then you've got organizations saying, can we connect with that business because we want to know how they did that, or they might be able to help us. That for us, that's the perfect scenario where we've set it up, we've created the right environment, we've stepped away, now this thing's just happening organically. It helps that the team are so, they were so excited about it, and they've got some, genuinely lovely characters that are really involved in the business community now. And the awards always throw up some amazing characters. Maybe it's probably a nice little plug there, Rayan, but Mr. Brown's Menswear could probably help you out if you do need to update the wardrobe, I'd say.
That's actually where I bought my wedding suit. So
there you go.
I'll have to go back. To go back. It's amazing. So looking forward to it, and we've got, like you said, some really not high profile, but really well run organizations in the running as well. So, and I suppose it's not so far away. I think this is probably going to land about a week before that happens. So, looking forward to it.
Well, I think, so whether there's the challenge for us is we would love to have an awards night that fits 1,000 people. We might be able to do that at some point in the future. But at the moment, the way the awards is, it's one of the largest, most recognized business awards that are around. Massive contribution from the business community. We have 26 judges.
Yeah, I was just about to say, giving up a lot of time.
Huge amounts of time. Huge amounts of time. And they do it out of genuine passion.
Yeah.
That's it. They're not doing it because they feel like they have to, or they've been nominated by someone or whatever it is. And that's where really some of the essence of the advocacy for the awards has come from, is that they're constantly telling people to be involved and really championing that as well. So it's a big sort of whole of community element that does culminate in this massive event. What we're really interested in doing moving forward is having a look at some ways that we can perhaps make some of the awards a little more accessible for businesses that perhaps don't have the time to invest, because it is a big time commitment.
Yeah.
And we've got some great feedback from all the different stakeholders and contributors to consider. So we'll look forward to sitting down and having a look at that pretty soon.
That'll be amazing. Looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, I mean, I actually applied back in the day when my first IT company. That was I look back on that quite embarrassingly. So, but anyway, it's this is how you learn.
Next
right?
time.
Yeah, well, yeah. An award for like some sort of coach. That'd be good. Just like a real bespoke.
Just best coach new to EOS with a podcast.
Yeah.
If it's not you, there's only got to be one other, surely.
Yeah, that's it. In Geelong, yeah, with the podcast. I think that's the niche. But Jeremy, it's been really good to chat to you. But I guess before I let you go, I just want to give you the opportunity for people. Like, I guess, how do people connect with the chamber? People listen to this, and if you got this far, you've obviously heard about the Business Excellence Award, the Small Business Festival, all the new chamber memberships and things like that. There's so much happening in this space. We definitely need more Geelong businesses to get involved, because as the chamber grows, everyone, the rising tide, lifts all boats sort of scenario. So we can do so much with more people. So how do people connect, and what's the best way to get in touch or sign up?
So it's a really easy introduction for us to help people with, because if businesses just flick us an email and say, hey, I'm interested, we'll bring them along to something and sort of give them a bit of a showcase around what we do. Obviously, so our membership page online is a pretty simplistic way of sort of understanding what happens, but everything that our businesses do is all customized, because all the businesses, want something different or need something different out of us. And so what we've done is we've created a really sort of core set of deliverables. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's about making sure that we can create the right connections and networks for businesses and opportunities for them to engage with the community, the business community. There's the advocacy side. And making sure that we represent businesses so that we try and get the best outcomes for them, either in the political or, in the sort of policy settings and regulatory environments. We deliver that professional development education side to business, and then we make sure we're creating these investment and, ongoing development opportunities for the region. So we stick to that core as a promise to the members. But we just facilitate contact with members on a daily basis. If a member sort of needs something or wants a contact here, or is trying to find out how to reach a market segment or how to grow their business, it's typically a phone call or an email, or we catch up with them, or they can come along to one of the events and we can have a chat there. So the barrier to entry is really, really low.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're just not sure, we'll just get people along. Just come along to one of the next events, or jump on one of the webinars, or we've got a new member welcome that we do about every 2 months, and we get all the new members in the room. There's one coming up next week, and we just go through how to sort of get started nice and quickly and get yourself set up, and then we just facilitate questions. What is it? How does your business want to do it? Because there'll be a couple of others that can learn from that answer, and then there'll be a different question about it. So I think, for us, we're incredibly accessible, and we're constantly trying to understand what does your business need in your industry, in your segment, because there'll be others there. And if we can try and figure out what that is through your feedback, then we can create a product or a service that can go back out and then sort of help drive that business success. So the short answer is either they can sign up as a member, or they can get in contact with us. Mm-hmm. But either way, we're just interested in understanding how we make the Geelong business community bigger and better.
Yeah, and look, I think to that, the only thing I add is I think the ability to connect and speak to you, and as well as Mel and the rest of the team, is actually so unique, and I really enjoyed that too when we first started this new journey I'm on, and it's actually quite. I mean, if you want to get connected and have, because I know when as business owners as well, especially small businesses, you tend to have yourself and one other person, and sometimes it's just yourself at the start. So to be able to have somebody you can speak to that kind of gets the landscape is so valuable. And come along, and I think it's the best thing you can do as a small business or any sort of size business in Geelong.
Yep. And I think it's for a lot of the feedback we get, so there's often a lot of support when you're starting a business. You know, sometimes you got to go through checks and measures and registrations and permits, and there's some stuff that you have to do, and there's usually guides and, you know, maybe government agencies to help with that. Once you start, that's typically when businesses are either not thinking about how to leverage, you know, everything else that's available, or don't know where to start. And so that's probably where we see such high value, is that if you're coming in and you're starting and you want to sort of navigate your way through the business community, the Chamber's a really easy way to try and understand it a lot faster and then just leverage those opportunities. And likewise, a lot of businesses will get stuck somewhere, and before you sort of start to Google how to fix something, and you might end up engaging, you know, an agency or buying some product based in an overseas website. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars to make something better. There's likely going to be someone that can help. And that's the key component that will never go away from what we do, is that we have businesses come to us saying, you know, we had one recently that said, I've just signed a massive deal with a huge retailer, and they've asked for so much stock that I can't get it produced fast enough with the lack of capital that I've got. And what should I do? Now, that's not me. I don't know how to fix that. But a couple of quick ring arounds, like we found some really high-powered executives that have come from a big box retail environment who are now just doing some consulting stuff that could help with that. Couple of really strong mentors for this person who could sort of help them get through. And then a few others that were, you know, pretty experienced in that sort of warehouse distribution side of things. So that kind of scenario is really common. You know, and that's awesome. That's a small business who thought that they'd just done something amazing because they had a massive win, and it turns out that it created this massive problem. And all I did was think about, all right, we know hundreds and thousands of people. Which are the one or two that can possibly help? Quick intro, you happy to help? Yes, that's fine. And these aren't things that you can pay for. Like, it's just the business community wanting to make sure that business who's taken the time and effort to try and do something in Geelong is going to sustain itself.
That's awesome.
So they're the stories that I absolutely love more than any, because there's the celebration, the recognition, the championing success and that kind of stuff. When someone's like in real trouble and the first three people I call all say yes, yes, yes.
That's awesome.
That's what the Chamber's there for as well. And that's probably underutilized, I'd say. There'll be businesses out there that will probably listen to this thinking there's stuff in my business that I can't fix and solve. And the Chamber's a great conduit for it to just, what's the problem? And we'll connect you with some people that can help. That's how it is.
And that's the beauty of the region we're in too. It's actually, there's quite a few people we can tap on shoulders and they're not too far away.
The only thing I'll say is, because you're in Geelong, it's more likely that person will want to meet face to face and have a coffee than just jump on the phone. That's just how you do business.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of coffees I've had is you've got to do it. But Jeremy, it's been amazing to have you on the show and having a chat and getting insights about Geelong, the Chamber, your EOS journey as well. Thanks so much for coming on, and looking forward to seeing what the next 3, 5, 10 years looks like for Geelong and the Chamber of Commerce.
10-year vision. Thank you.
Let's do it. Thank you.